What's going on, everyone? Happy New Year and welcome to the first episode of 2025 of the season gaming Bitcast. We are back, ready to talk about a lot of games from apparently last year. So that's what we're going to do today. But here we are. I hope everyone has had a great break, a great holiday, whatever your tradition is. And I am back with these two characters you see in front of you, including the lawman himself with his new headset where he can hear about all the things happening and all the crimes in the local area. How you doing, lawman?
I'm excited about having this show with y'all. And yes, I did get some new headphones for Christmas, so I'm excited about hearing things a little better without having to constantly adjust my ear.
Adjust your ear. You weren't adjusting the headphones, you were adjusting your ear. I like it. And as you can see, the character himself with a tie on. It's something new this year, I suppose. Mr. Travis himself. How are you doing?
Doing good. I can't actually just stare vacantly the entire show like I promised. That would have been funny, though. You guys would not have had any good response to that. Just like, oh, he's just staring at us with his tongue out the whole.
He just sits there for 2 hours. I hope and I just talk.
That would be the world's greatest prank, dude. That would be so good. April Fool show, maybe we'll see. We'll see. I might pull it on
Something to look forward to, everybody.
Yeah,
there you go.
How you doing? Happy New Year. Happy to be here. I already logged my first review of 2025 on New Year's Day because I'm really cool. And yeah, I'm chilling, man. Just doing the work. Let's go.
All right. Is it one we're going to be able to talk about yet or no?
No. Not
okay.
till January 15. I'm way ahead of schedule because I work over the break because I'm a psychopath.
I was going to say, why would you work to make a review that isn't available for 2 more weeks?
Because then I can start on the next review right now. Yeah, I can do another review. Just you get more work. That's
more
my
power
reward.
to you.
Put more on my plate, Father. That's what I say to Tom Marks each and every day.
Oh man, well, it's good to be back. We were chatting about kind of the break and having some time off and how quickly it goes. So good morning, chat. Good morning or afternoon, whenever you're listening to this. But yeah, good to be back. We're going to be catching up on a lot of things. Gave us some time over the holiday to hopefully catch up on some games. I know I did, which was nice. So we'll be talking about that and really kind of some thoughts on 2024 in gaming in general, what's going on in the industry, the games we ended up getting through over the holidays, what, may have changed our mind on some things, and we'll go through all of that. Of course, I want to shout out before we get started. I just want to make sure to shout out the audience and, everyone who joins us here every week live on both sides of the house. Along with the audio listeners, we did see an increase, as I've said a few times, in audio listeners over the course of the year, which is fantastic. So thank you for that, and thank you for hanging out with us. I'm looking forward to another amazing year of gaming, and it starts pretty early this year with the games that are already scheduled, which we've touched on. So, of course, before we get to the actual games we've been playing, let's catch up. We've got some Tide picks. We've got a couple comments as well. So let's start with these Tide picks, and I think in honor of our 3rd annual cook-off, Travis, Tide went with the chefs this morning in 2 different forms, by the way. So let's start with the cartoon ones.
Nice.
Adorable.
Yeah, classic.
You guys are both adorable again. I got the bulbous head.
Yeah, I look pretty good.
Travis,
you look like a giant baby.
Travis has a real credits of a Pixar movie look.
Yeah, he does.
Oh, yeah, that's very true. Good call out. Although, Hoag, I don't know. This doesn't feel earned as the one who refuses to do our cook-off every year. I feel like you should be maybe cleaning up or something. I don't know.
Well,
maybe waiting a table.
Bussing tables,
doing something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Regardless, it's
I
good.
Like my bow tie with a apron. That's a look, dude. That may be unprecedented. Do they do that? Do chefs wear bow ties?
I don't know. Does the AI know that you wear D's apron?
Yeah, that's a good question. I look like I'm actually wearing a plate of metal. Or maybe that's a clipboard. I think I have a clipboard over my chest. Like I'm holding it. No, that's supposed to be the vest. That's
those are the chef buttons, definitely.
Yeah. It does. It looks a little square. Yeah. Okay.
And then of course we get the I guess the Muppet version, maybe.
Yeah, look at that.
Wow, they did. They went there with my eye.
It's pretty much the face you were making when we started. So it's like the AI knew what you were going to do.
We call Jeff Keighley. We got to get these guys on the Game Awards.
Yeah, let's do it. Hogue, you
I
look
look
great
like
as a
I'm
Muppet as
stoned.
always. A little more.
I
ripped.
am a Muppet. I understand why I translate well to this medium.
Yeah, but you kind of look ripped for some reason. Like you have really broad shoulders in this photo. And then, yeah, Ains has been smoking Muppet weed. It's
it's right there on the left of the Bitcast sign, and I just
by the way,
keep it right in the kitchen.
This is the lens I see the entire world through. Every time I sit down for the show, this is what I look at. It's just you guys are all Muppets to me. It's pretty good.
It's very fair. So, Tide, as always, thank you for another year of laughs and for kicking us off in 2025.
It's a nice bow tie.
With the new one. We've got a Googleman super chat to kick us off in the new year. Go figure.
Googleman 81, 10 euros to ring in the new year, to ring in the year of the snake. I'd like to start off by recommending Hundreds of Beavers. You're welcome. Hundreds of Beavers. Is this a game, a movie, or just something he wanted to say?
I think it's just a recommendation of Googleman.
I hope it's a horror movie, because like horror movie themed weird animals that you don't expect to be in horror movies has become a thing. So I'm waiting for that Hundreds of Beavers horror movie now.
Ains, what year of the Chinese Zodiac were you born in? Let's change our years.
I mean, this won't surprise you. I'm a horse. You know what I mean?
Why wouldn't that surprise me? I don't know anything about the Chinese Zodiac, so I don't know if that's supposed to mean anything.
Just a bad joke. No, I am a horse. I am a horse.
Like you're such a horse. Like I knew you were gonna. Hogue, what's your Chinese Zodiac here, man? What you got?
I was waiting for you to ask me. I have no clue.
Really? What year were you born? Let's look it up.
Nope.
Really?
Nope.
You look it up then. It takes like 4 seconds. You look it up with your right hand.
Travis, we're already off track right at the start.
All right. Sorry. I was born year of the snake, so this is my year, guys. I'm here to.
Oh, this is your year. All right.
Here to slither into the new year.
Sounds accurate. I like it. By the way, Googleman says Hundreds of Beavers is a comedy movie, which I do remember because I saw the poster for it and I totally forgot about that. So there you go.
It appears I am a monkey.
Yeah, I was about to say that. An orangutan, most likely.
So this ridiculous website says I'm distinguished by an irresistible charm and a sharp, witty mind.
Very cool. All right, so now we know that the Chinese Zodiac is bullshit.
There you go.
Got him. I'm just kidding.
Oh my God. But yes, Googleman, thank you as always. Appreciate you every week, my friend. We've got a couple of member comments here. We've got Cookie Monster Steve.
Cookie Monster Steve has been a member for 29 months.
Excuse me, that's Cookie Mon Steve.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're right. Cookie Mon Steve.
Yeah.
Member for 29 months. My goodness, I can't believe I've been hanging around this long, still having a great time. That is impressive.
Do you have a Cookie Monster voice in your repertoire, Travis?
Probably, but can I do it at this time in the morning? It's a good question. Wait, how long have we been on?
Time of day affects the Cookie Monster voice.
Of course it does. Your vocal range is completely different at the beginning and early end of the day. This is actually really true. I record all of my footage or all my audio for reviews late in the night because my voice sounds totally different in the morning. It's true.
He has to collect more phlegm to get
how
that.
long?
We get the worst version of him in the morning. That's what he's doing.
but I can sing the low notes in the morning. How long have we been members? And not like actually members, but how long have we been on the show? How long have I been doing this?
We looked at that a few months back, but I don't remember specifically.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
I think I joined in mid 2022.
So you've been a member for like at least 2 years, huh? 2.5, 30 months, maybe.
Probably about 29 months, I would guess. Maybe I
brought like a little less than a year before that, Travis. Like I think you were like 8 or 9 months before that.
Cookie Mon Steve has basically joined for Hogue, is what we've learned.
We don't know that.
I mean, the timing
Could have
seems a
come over to
little-
make fun of me and said, "Hey,
True.
that
still
Ains and
counts as coming
Travis."
for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Cookie Bot Steve, thank you, my friend. We got a couple new members on the Hoax side of the house as well. Weird sister.
I'm gonna go with Weird Sister. I think it's
Let's
a
go with
pun.
weird. Yeah,
Weird
yeah.
Sister became a YouTube member. I don't know what that means, but thanks.
Member on Hoax channel, as did Gregor's.
Gregor's Troba.
Watoba is that? I don't know how to pronounce the symbol there.
I'm not even gonna try.
Yeah, but thank you both.
That looks Polish to me.
It does.
Cool.
Yes. Yeah. Hopefully we're not insulting anyone by saying that.
I am Polish. If anybody takes it as an insult.
No, I didn't mean Polish being an insult. I meant if he's not Polish, I hope we're not saying he's Polish when he's actually not, is what I meant.
Fair enough. Yes.
Just to clarify.
Yeah, you freaking Pole. Hope that's not an insult.
Oh man, random name.
Random _ name, $4.99. 2024 game. I just finished playing through Horizon Zero Dawn remastered on PC. I will have to say, amazing game, but remastered was not it. Was not needed. Was not. It was not needed. Okay, there's some punctuation problems here.
I like both the comment and your reading of it, Travis. It sounds like this person is being forced to admit that Horizon Zero Dawn was an acceptable experience.
At gunpoint.
I tend to agree that the remaster was not very impressive in my eyes. But
I don't even remember that coming out. Did that come out this year? There was just a remaster randomly of it.
There was in November
on PC. Yeah,
in November of 2024.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
Great game though.
I still haven't finished the sequel.
Me neither. Aloy's annoyance turned me off of that game hard.
Yeah.
I just haven't gone.
I think
back.
it was mostly I felt like I had played the game already. Although I did like that little chess game, little mini game they had. That was cool.
Oh yeah. I forget.
God, Dan hated that, didn't he?
He did. He despised it.
Yeah.
He somehow found a way to put like 350 hours into that game.
Yeah, he doesn't strike me as a mini game, dude.
He plays Yakuza.
Oh, that's true. That game's like
Yakuza does have a lot of mini games.
Yeah,
that's true. He did date all those teenage girls.
I don't believe there are any teenage girls to date in Yakuza.
I don't know. Might want to play more Yakuza, Hogue.
Random name. Thank you for the super chat, Gregor's. Following up,
Gregor's Watroba. Yeah, definitely Polish.
With Polish currency. So there we go.
I was listening to the older streams lately and heard that you've recommended the Thaumaturge. Many thanks. We worked hard to make that game happen. Oh, he's on the team. Very cool. I also bought that game. It's on my list of games to play.
Yeah, that was one that I recommended. I wound up playing it over the break. I think it's a really strong kind of turn-based RPG with a lot of cool characterization. Like I said when I talked about it before, it reminds me of some of the more in-depth full writing of something like Disco Elysium, with a completely different kind of universe that I prefer. It's got a lot of Witcher in it, and that kind of approach to storytelling. So,
really, you prefer that to like Psycho Anarchy? I don't know how you describe the Disco Elysium universe. It's pretty.
I love Disco Elysium, but I'm not the target audience for like cynical nihilism in general.
Oh, I am. That's my.
I know it.
That's where I live, bro. That's hit me where I live.
I was gonna say that I thought this his picture looked familiar, and sure enough, he uses the same picture on social media. So there you go. Cool. So awesome. I hope the game did well.
Cool game.
Yeah, thank you for swinging by the show. All right. Sorry, I'm a little stuffed up if you can't hear.
I can hear. Maybe your voice is different.
For what it's worth, the username I use on Infinity Nikki is Grigori, because Grigori Rasputin is a major character in Thaumaturge. So that's the connection you need to bring Thaumaturge and Infinity Nikki together.
Both modern classics. I think we can agree.
Really, if you love one, you're going to love the other.
Yeah.
I am
tied at the hip, really. Yeah.
Hogan and I might be the only people who can like both of those games. Yeah.
I don't know. It feels like
2021, by the way. according
feels
to
like I've been engaging with more and more people who are enjoying those kinds of different experiences. So, which is good. It's a good thing. So, by the way, Rob Frawley says, Travis, your first Bitcast appearance was June 29th, 2021.
That means I've been a member for 30 months.
2021.
Yeah. Right. 24 months, 2 years, and then 6 months halfway through.
That would take you to the top of 2024.
Yeah. You're forgetting a year.
Oh, shit. Wait, what? Oh, yeah. It would take me to the first day of 2024. So, man, that's long. 42 months?
Almost 3.5 years.
Look at this
commitment. When do I stop pledging? When do I get into the game?
You don't.
What's going on?
It's an endless contract. Thank you, sir.
He never gives us a varsity jacket.
No.
It seems like a raw deal here. I don't know about this.
We agreed to this deal.
That's true.
Anyway, let's get caught up on the games that we played over the holidays and kind of finalize where we landed in 2024. Because I told you guys that I'm usually pretty behind on single player games in particular, and I don't finish a lot of them because I'm usually playing multiplayer. And I didn't promise, but I said to you guys over the couple weeks of the holiday, I'm really going to try to get through some games. And I'm very happy to say I actually did for a change.
I saw you were busy online.
I was. I finished Indie. I 100%ed Astrobot. I put more time into Stalker 2. I put more time into Silent Hill 2. I got to play Helldivers 2 with some of the crew at SG. I played 9 Souls, tried to get a little time into that just to experience it, and a few other things as well. So I can talk about a few games, but I'll start. And the reason I have the globe here is finished Indie, really, really enjoyed it. I know we've talked about that at length already, but after finishing it, it kind of cemented for me that I believe that's probably my favorite game of the year. Which Dragon Age was up there, one of the other big ones I finished of the year. Astrobot's up there. I think Erd Tree is still the best thing I played last year, of course, but that's not a game. So I think Indie ends as my game of the year 2024. I did not get to Outlaws yet, so I'm hoping to do that here in the next couple of weeks. But regardless, I think Indie's my game of the year.
Very cool.
Well, I think people know that Star Wars Outlaws is my game of the year. Indie wound up in my top 5. So I do think that the Lucasfilm licensors did a good job of getting games out that represented their brands in a useful way in 2024. But Outlaws, I do like just a little bit more than Indie, just like I like Star Wars just a little bit more than Indie. So it's hard to make that the game choice in terms of which is better, because I think the brands are ultimately what I choose that on. But Indiana Jones, like I said, still got stuck in the middle a little bit. Starting new hubs always does that to me. Any game that takes that model always happens. Deus Ex, Indie, doesn't matter. So that's not on them. That's on me. But it is one of my top 5 games of the year.
Nice.
Yeah.
I still think my favorite game of the year is Infinite Wealth, but I think at this point I'm actually going to beat Indie today. I'm at the very end, and I'm at a 100% playthrough on accident, seemingly. But I've just been kind of having fun enjoying each of the hub worlds. And I would say that's probably my second favorite game this year is Indiana Jones. Really damn good game. And I don't really have an affinity for the IP. Like, I watched the kids or the movies when I was a kid, but I just think it's a really unique feeling game. It's unlike, a lot of games I've played before. And that has been really strong for me. Cool game.
Indie, you mean?
Indie, yeah. Just a very unique game.
Yeah, it's structured really well. I love the, it kind of leans into some of the gameplay aspects of games like we've talked about, right? Of the Riddicks and the Dishonoreds, and it plays in some of that kind of arcane space a little bit, but then it really, to Hoax Point, does a fantastic job with the license. And it's just, and it ends like you get to that third hub, Sukhothai. Is it Sukhothai?
Sukhothai.
Yeah, and then after that, you get a couple hours of like
Sanskrit for dawn of happiness.
Is it
Sukhothai? Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. But then you get a couple hours, right, that takes you to to the end and kind of caps up the story, and it's got this kind of big ending that's just like the movies and everything, and it's just really well done. I gotta applaud them for that.
Yeah, no, I'll look forward to it.
Yeah, hopefully you can overcome kind of that hub stuff. I think the one problem you may have, Hogue, is once you get through Giza, you get a couple hours maybe of different stuff, which is really engaging, right? But then you get to the third hub, and knowing what you've said, I think the third hub may kind of put you in that same place of, here, I've got to do this hub again. So I don't know.
Well, I might have an easier time of it going from 2 to 3, because one of the things that does happen over the holidays for me is that my brother comes into town, game developer, loves games, plays these things at the same time as me, and I tend to stop playing basically everything with a story that can be ruined. So I didn't touch indie while he was in town. I didn't touch the latter half of Metaphor while he was in town, because I knew he was playing these games. And so I switched up my game playing to do things that are more forever games. I played a lot of Darktide over the break. I played a lot of Skull and Bones, because he doesn't care about Skull and Bones, but he doesn't care about being ruined in whatever happens in Skull and Bones, certainly.
By the way, we'll talk about this a little later, but I was going to mention the SG honors that you guys partaked in. So, our site did the whole kind of 22 categories just for fun, and everyone picks their pieces. And Hogue had Skull and Bones on 3 slides.
Did I?
I had to write Skull and Bones on 3 different slides.
Do you remember what the slots were?
I can look it up while we're talking.
I didn't think
you'll let anybody in on these awards.
I didn't think that I overrepresented Skull and Bones, but maybe I did.
3 times? I don't know, bro. I don't know if I had a game up there more than once, maybe twice, but
they're not awards. It's just us having fun. Let's see. Well, while we're talking, did you guys so favorite live service delivery? You put Skull and Bones.
Crazy.
Absolutely.
You also had it for, I think, favorite surprise game. So like the biggest game you weren't really anticipating that you ended up loving.
Those are legitimate entries, Travis.
And the game, here's a tougher argument you have to make. The game you're most likely to play for years.
Yes. If I'm allowed to, I will play Skull and Bones for years.
There's a big question mark there, I think, about if you're going to be physically able to play that game for a couple of years.
Yeah, but I took the spirit of the question to mean, what would I do if I had my druthers? Like, whether or not other people enjoy the piracy of the Indian Ocean with me, I can't control.
I think I put Path of Exile 2 for that one. And I think best live service game is still Diablo. They've still this year, like,
that's actually what I picked.
Yeah, Diablo.
Yes.
See, and I have to react to Vessel of Hatred and their changes. They're really not working for me. So like Diablo 4 was not going to be on that list for me. But I did want to mention to you guys that over the holiday, I did pick up the beta for Path of Exile 2 on the PlayStation.
Oh, okay.
So I have started playing that. It's going to be a long time for me on that. I'm not going to.
Yeah. You can say it's going to be a game you're playing for years.
It might well be, but not because it has years of content for me, just because I slowly move through those things. And certainly in its console form, it plays fine, but it is clearly a PC game that's kind of been moved over to console. And that always adds a certain layer of friction for my enjoyment.
Especially in early access.
Yeah. But I liked what I saw. I like the intro.
No, it's sorry.
No, you like almost getting hung, avoiding the noose.
Hanged, yes.
Hanged. Almost hanged.
Almost hanged. We did both pick. We're the only two who picked game you're most likely to play for years as Path of Exile 2, Travis.
Really?
Yeah.
Fucking troglodytes on your committee.
But yeah, Hogue, like I said, if you I can invite you to the guild where we have put some loot. You can share loot between the guild. There's a chest that appears in town. So like depending on your class, you can share loot and other stuff. So anyway, we'll talk.
Sorceress.
Oh yeah, there's yeah. So let's talk offline on that. We can help. Real quick. Gregor's asked a good question. Question to Bitcast: do you think that AAA alumni teams have any chance on the market? Dreamhaven, Moonshot Games, Secret Door, 100 Stars. So I don't want to get into this right now because we're talking about games of 2024, but this is part of what we're going to be talking about with gaming in 2024 after we talk through these games. So we'll tackle that a little here later, Gregor's.
Yes, absolutely we will, because I feel very strongly about that.
Yeah. I think it's a pretty big discussion point going into 2025. Did either of you get back to Astrobot?
I completed Astrobot over the break because I wanted to get the Christmas secret level.
It was a cool level. Very cool.
I pushed for that. I beat it. I got to tell you, my complaints about Astrobot being a Sony advertisement that you paid for only triple or quintuple in that last level. The ending of that game is insane, folks.
It is a generational walk you through the PlayStation generations ending to that game. Yes, you are correct.
I'm not going to spoil anything, but the ending of that game is an infomercial that you might have seen at 3 a.m. with an ending that says Sony PlayStation, feel the love.
There's a QR code for the PS5 Pro somewhere in the background.
That actually wouldn't even surprise me, honestly.
I started Astrobot over the break, and I was trying to show D why it won Game of the Year. I was like, oh yeah, like people say it's a good game. I'm not, I haven't really gotten too much into it. And I played it, and she was like, oh, okay, I guess. And then she moved on.
It's a really good game.
I think she's salty about Metaphor losing, which is my number 3 game of the year.
Metaphor was my number 4.
Metaphor was the game I put that I can recognize as being a great game. That's just not my game, which I've said many, many times. So
yeah, I wouldn't have said it was an Ains focused product. Certainly,
I would have.
No,
I would have said Ains.
I was hyped for it.
This is all you, dude.
I think Metaphor is great, but it's way outside your wheelhouse for what you like.
Yeah, sadly, yes. But anyway, on Astrobot, really, really loved it. I 100%ed it. Once I get addicted to a platformer that has like do the stuff on this level, it's over. Like I have to do it. So 100% did all the speed run levels, did the Christmas level, all that stuff. It is very, very, very good.
It is.
I don't think I'm as high. I don't think it is a 10. And I don't think that I think what annoys me, not about Astrobot, because it in itself is a great game. I'm annoyed that for whatever reason, Astrobot, because it's either a PlayStation icon, whatever reason, it got so much press. I'm annoyed that other games in that vein didn't get that kind of press. Why are you laughing?
He's laughing at the comment that just came in, I believe.
Oh, sorry. I didn't see it. I was looking about. But I reflect, I play a lot of platformers. I talk about this. And like I look at like a game like Sackboy, I look at Psychonauts 2. I look at these games and I'm like, they didn't get anywhere near this level of recognition that Astrobot is getting. And they deserved it. If Astrobot's going to get this level of recognition, there's other games that deserve this level of recognition as well.
The one that jumps
in fact,
out
I think
to me,
Psychonauts 2 is better than Astrobot 2 or Astrobot 2.
Yeah, definitely.
Psychonauts 2, I think, is harder for a mass audience to appreciate because it is
Also
weird
definitely.
as hell.
It is weird.
And Astrobot, for whatever it is in terms of being a Sony commercial, is easy to grab onto, easy to play, easy to figure out what's going on. You don't have to bring any other brain energy to the party. The one that I think I agree with you, Ains, that there hasn't been enough platformer kind of appreciation in the last couple of years. The one that I think got, unfortunately, little recognition is Crash 4. I thought Crash 4 was excellent.
Yeah.
And nobody talked about it at all.
That's true. It just kind of came and went with the hardcore audience that loved Crash. You're right. Agreed. And I don't know. I think your point about it being pick up and very lighthearted and easy to play, all accurate, right? I think that's all true. But like, if you look at, I'm a weirdo, right? If you look at like the design of the levels and the design of what you do on each level, it gets kind of samey. The level design is great, but like what you're collecting and how you're collecting is very similar on each level. And it doesn't really push any boundaries. Like even the speedrun levels are super easy. Like if you want to get an amazing time, you can do those forever. But like there's nothing that really pushes the challenge there either. Maybe that's just a me thing. But I look at the inventiveness of Psychonauts 2 and the message and what it did on its level design. It is leagues ahead of Astrobot in that vein. And I look at Sackboy. I was playing Sackboy the other day just to remind myself. And I'm like, Sackboy has more customization. It has those brilliant music levels. It has 2 to 4 player co-op you can play those levels on. It has more collectibles and things to find, more like side levels to do. And I'm just like, how did it not get more recognition?
Because the main character's a monster.
I do think that Astrobot, what puts it over the edge is the polish, right? Astrobot immediately feels awesome to play. True. And that team, since the Playroom on, has had the best feel for what to do with this haptic controller. Like every minute of playing Astrobot feels like you're playing a premium product. I don't think that comes through with what is it? Little Big Adventure? What is the name of the Sackboy game on
it's either My Big Adventure. It's something like that.
Yeah. Little Nightmares.
That would be a good name for you and Sackboy, Travis. But yes, I agree with you, Ains. I think I said this on an earlier episode that Astrobot.
Big Adventure.
Oh, okay. Astrobot has this immediate sense of imagination and fun, very much like a Mario Galaxy. And then it repeats its tricks. And I think the game is actually probably too big for what they actually had to put in. And the bosses are giant. They're imaginative. You feel the polish in the animations, but they're not asking you to do much of anything that's difficult or tricky.
Big agreed. Yep. Good point. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, tastes vary, but I think what I'm saying is after finishing it, I was just surprised to see it get that level of recognition for what it was, especially in a great year of gaming, right? There's lots of other games, Metaphor, like you guys said. Indie, I know, came late, but there's a lot of other great games that came out this year. So,
yeah, anyway. Astrobot was my number 8 for reference.
Okay. I thought it might be my number 1 because love 3D platformers. The one thing I will say is I do like it getting a lot of recognition because I like it showing that there's a market for 3D platformers in 2020.
You see a pathway to Banjo-Kazooie through Astrobot. I get it, Ains.
It's like that big, but I'm searching for it,
I don't know that there is a market for 3D platformers.
Yeah, shut up. No one's talking to you. What other games did you guys get to over the break?
What else did I play over the break? Well, I have some stuff that is kind of on a Hoax Notes kind of level that I want to talk about that I bought over the break because there were a bunch of great sales at the end of the year. And this is one of those topics that I think we can talk about in a separate kind of section. But I did notice that Ubisoft was having some crazy deals across its lineup. Ubisoft is going to be a story in 2025 because what happens to them is a question mark in the first quarter and beyond. And they have bet the company on Assassin's Creed Shadows. And I am hopeful that the company is not dismantled or otherwise bought out and taken in a different direction. But I think that there's too much that they have bet on Assassin's Creed coming in February. So I did notice that there were a lot of Ubisoft sales. I told you earlier that I've been playing Darktide because I was looking for forever games on the PlayStation 5, which was launched, I think, in mid-December. On the PlayStation 5, I believe it's been on the Xbox for longer. It's been on the PC for longer. But that's from the team that makes the Vermintide series. They use the Warhammer license to make these kind of cooperative, short-form action game sequences that then have a kind of meta narrative that goes with them. Don't come for the story, you're coming for the action. But I think it's a really fun game. And I have talked about the PlayStation 5 Pro in the past as being not something that I was going to get for myself. I was very blessed to have my parents get that for me for Christmas. And Darktide is one of the games that really benefits from the PlayStation 5 Pro. So happy to talk about that. Happy to talk about my experiences with the Pro at some point if you're interested. But I do think Darktide is one of those that jumps out as really using that extra power well.
Nice. Well, and Darktide's had a lot of updates since it first launched. It launched in kind of an early access state, and then they've had other tunings and stuff. So it's one I really liked Vermintide. I played that with some friends, quite a few times. And then Darktide kind of came out a little flat. So I'm hoping to go back.
That's what I had heard. Yeah, that's what I had heard. They had a complete revamp from what I can tell from looking at like the patch notes. I think it's a very strong game now. I really, really like it. It has great music. It has great visuals. I am going to play that one significantly more, I think. And that's not my wheelhouse. That's not a game that's designed for Hogue to enjoy. It doesn't really have a story. It has vibes, right? You're in 40,000. The universe is at war. It's always at war. Everything's dark and evil. And you're going to go in and you're going to shoot some zombies. But it is a lot of fun. And
zombies.
Yes, they're not zombies. They're heretics that have all the characteristics of zombies.
All right. Well, let's not generalize. Okay?
but I really like it. I've really enjoyed playing that game. It's got a lot of deep build customization to do, and I don't like being in that universe necessarily, but I like the vibes that it has. So take that as you will. Darktide, I think, is a good PlayStation 5 game.
And I like that you're embracing the vibes word.
Yep. I'm completing my transition to Ains commentary. The vibes are good.
The vibes. There you go.
Talking the youngest one here and the only one not talking like a teenage girl. It's pretty cool.
Tell us again about Sabrina Carpenter, Travis.
Well, last time he had like a nickname for her, which I don't even know what it was.
Bro. Everybody knows about Sab C.
Sab C. Okay.
Yeah.
For real.
Sab C.
Dude, when you're married to the person I'm married to, you got to hear about Sabrina Carpenter a lot. I don't know what to tell you.
What give us a game you played over the break, Travis?
I don't play
that you can actually talk about.
I'm cool, dude. I watched football, you know.
So did I.
Hung out leaning on a car. It was pretty cool. I don't know what cool people do.
For the record, that was Travis watching Friday Night Lights and Grease Live.
I was gonna say you like, for some random reason you went back 4 decades, but yes, go ahead.
I don't know what modern cool people do. What would you do if you were cool? No, I played. I'm almost done with indie. I put a lot of time into that. As I mentioned, I started Astrobot, Miles Edgeworth, Ace Attorney. I'm like nearing the end of the second game, so I put a bunch of time into that. Balatro, I put a surprising amount of time into. Hades 2, I think I'm through all of the content you can get through in early access. I finished the game I'm reviewing, which is called Aloft, which is like a 30-hour game that my review's in the can, just waiting to go live. And then, what else did I play? A Metaphor, we beat that. Infinity Nikki. So I got through a bunch of stuff. I still have more to do, and the review kind of took up a lot of time. And then I'm playing my honeymoon in February.
Yeah, man.
Cool. So I spent some time doing that. I don't know.
That's awesome.
Are you free to tell us where you're going, or are you not?
Yeah, we're going to Tokyo.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love
it.
We
both been there. I've been there a few times for Tokyo Game Show for work. But I guess this time we're going for recreational purposes, which will be new for me in general.
It's usually what you do on your honeymoon.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems
he's like, I wonder if I can fit some work into this.
I don't. What do you do? What do you do when you're not? I don't get it. I feel like I'm going to be very bored. So anyway.
It is funny, Travis. I took my wife on an anniversary trip. I think it might have been our first anniversary. And it was basically a nice hotel, and we were going to like sit by the pool and otherwise relax. And we were terrible at it. Like, she will tell you about that trip and be like, nope. We were on like day 4, and she was looking at bus tours and things to go and do things because she's just not comfortable, getting room service and sitting by the pool. So
yeah, I don't think that's us. She's likely, knowing my wife, she's going to find a list of the weirdest shit to do, and we're going to do all of it. Like, one of the things I know we're doing is we're going to a restaurant where everybody sits in front of an aquarium and you fish for your own fish with a fishing rod, and then they cook that for you and then you eat it.
What a time.
Yeah, that sounds like a weird thing you could do in Tokyo. So
guys, if you get a clip of Travis being on a Japanese game show because his wife has signed him up for one, please send it to us.
That would be so sick. I would love to do that. Make the one where it's like really messy. I want to be slipping and pudding. I want to just ruin a suit. That'd be really cool.
Travis on his honeymoon. I want to be slipping and pudding. There you go.
Well, yeah. Also, still looking to losing that V card. Looking forward to it. I mean, maybe it'll happen.
There you go.
Now.
Maybe. Fingers crossed.
Supposed to happen on the wedding night, but she had a headache, and it was all worked out from her workout instructor, Brian. I don't know what that's about, but yeah, we'll see. We're hoping. Fingers crossed.
Sometimes Travis goes on a bit, and we gotta let him do it.
Yeah, you gotta let him gotta let him finish there. So I know I'm like 8 months late to this, but I did finally play some Helldivers 2, briefly anyway, with some of the crew at SG. I see why that game was kind of beloved this year. That was a lot of fun. We had some laughs. We had some chaos. It's obviously very tongue-in-cheek, like playing Starship Troopers, as everyone has talked about. So a lot of fun with that game. I can see why a lot of people like it. So
I think like Astrobot, it's got that polish, right? Broken down to its nuts and bolts. It is, and I apologize for the Banjo-Kazooie referencing. It is a simple game. I like what it does as well. Astrobot is a simple game, but you do have to give Sony credit that their games do tend to have an extra level of polish, and I think Astrobot and Helldivers do that. So you get all the lighting and effects that make it that kind of bombast in Helldivers 2, when it didn't need to be that for the game to function, but it definitely benefits from having that in the game. So I think Helldivers 2 is a strong game. I know a couple of people didn't get mad at me exactly, but questioned that I didn't have Helldivers 2 on my top 10 list of the year. But it's just too simple and not doing enough new things for me personally. That doesn't mean anything for how you should like that game. I think it's very bombastic. I think it's cool, quote unquote, to play, but it's not scratching enough of that kind of strategy or other interest itch that I have when I play a video game. So
I wouldn't expect you to have that on your list. That's not a Hope type of game.
Well, I view Darktide in that same kind of. I think Darktide and Helldivers 2 are kind of cousins. They're different games. Obviously, Darktide is a first-person shooter, but it is focused on kind of bombast and lighting up dark spaces and killing things in front of you in a similar way.
Yeah.
Well, Helldivers 2 is my type of game. Like, I am the target audience for that, and it's not on my list either. So I kind of agree with what you're saying. Like, it is a cool game. I'm really excited for it as a live service. I considered it as my best live service of the year just because of the engagement with the community. But as like a, top game, I would agree with your critiques there. I think that content-wise, it runs pretty thin pretty quick. It's a great game if you're just like trying to, blow a couple hours with some friends. Like, it's I kind of put it in the same category as like Rocket League. But yeah.
I'm very similar. Same way, but it was fun to get into. I did play more Silent Hill 2. We talked about this one a few months back, and I was really hyped for this one as a classic horror game, one of those beloved ones. I think Bluebird did a good job with the remake. I know some of the horror guys at SG, especially Zach, that he has Silent Hill 2 is like his favorite in a bunch of categories this year. I will say I'm about halfway through it, maybe a little past halfway. And I am not vibing with it as much as I had hoped. I thought it was, I felt pretty good about it early on. I played it with my wife for a little bit, and then I've been playing it by myself for a few hours. And like, I don't know, it just, maybe I misremember that game. Maybe I remember it too fondly. Maybe nostalgia goggles, of Silent Hill 2. But
maybe you just miss your wife. It's her absence is felt. You just can't enjoy the game now.
It's just not doing much for me, I'll tell you.
I think that Silent Hill 2 is a very good horror game, but I do think that they expanded sections of the game a little bit too much in areas. It feels bloated in a way that I don't think the original did. And I really felt this to start
like Rebirth.
Like what?
Like Rebirth.
Like Rebirth. Rebirth is much worse at this than Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 is a better bloat than Rebirth. But Silent Hill 2, I first felt this in the apartment complex, where separating the first two areas of the town.
Which one?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Separating the first two areas of the town. And I don't remember it being that kind of puzzly and moving through so many rooms in that complex. And I looked after the fact at the original, and people said, oh, yeah, this whole area is new. This whole area is expanded by Bluebird. And I understand wanting to do that, wanting to make something more valuable for players in 2024. But I think they went too far. And I like Silent Hill 2. I think it's a good remake. But I do think it slows up the pacing a little bit too much for what needs to be a little bit more of a taut thriller. And Silent Hill 2 remake doesn't get to that level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got through the hospital, which, you go to the hospital, which is a big section after the apartments and stuff. And I finished the hospital and finished that boss fight and continued a bit. And I was just like, it's not as scary as I remember either. And maybe, again, that's 20 years of game evolution taking shape. But I don't know. I wanted to make sure I continued with it. I will say this, and take it as you will, but I went back and played a little more Resident Evil 4 Remake, which I know didn't release this year, or 2024. But from a just enjoyment perspective, I was night and day enjoying myself with RE4 remake over Silent Hill 2.
Well, that's not a surprise. You're a shooter kind of guy.
Yeah,
and Resident Evil 4 is an action game.
It is, but I mean, I love horror games, right? I love methodical horror games as well. So I don't know. It surprised me.
Did you play it in VR?
No, I haven't yet, though. No.
Alan Wake 2 is where you want to kind of directly compare to Silent Hill 2, I think, because they have that similar kind of slow. We're not in action shooting mode, but I think Alan Wake 2 is a stronger product.
And they both have musical numbers.
Musical numbers.
Yes.
You haven't gotten to the Silent Hill 2 musical number yet? Oh, you'll get there. Keep playing. You'll get there. It's a big. I'm surprised at the number of sequence.
I didn't even know. Did Bloober keep all the secret endings? I don't know.
From what I read, there are multiple endings, and there's things I've already done that have affected the ending. So it seems like it, but I don't know for sure. Hit us with another Hoax Note game, Hoag. What you got?
Yes, the one that I wanted to make sure I brought up is a game called Bloomtown. Bloomtown is a pixel-based JRPG that tends to look a little bit like Earthbound or maybe Eastward, if you're familiar with that game from the indie scene. But your kid's on a summer break at your grandpa's house, and as it turns out, demons are besieging the town.
Of course.
Yes, I know, right? And you wind up having to make a contract with the devil and unleash your own personal demons to fight the other demons that are invading town in a very Persona-esque way, but all pixel-based. And I really, really like it. It's got a really cool vibe, as we've been saying on this episode, and it was unexpected. So I wanted to make sure that I called out Bloomtown because it was the one. I play a lot of stuff in the indie space to kind of try to sift through and find the things that are really original and cool. And I think this is one of those things.
Very cool. I'm looking at it right now on Steam. It is very positive with reviews, so very highly regarded. Sadly, it doesn't seem to have a ton of reviews, which means, maybe it's going a little by the wayside. So good on you for calling it out. Bloomtown, a different story, I guess is the subtitle, right?
Yes, it does have a subtitle. It makes it sound like a sequel. I don't love that.
Yeah, it is on everything. It's on PlayStation, Xbox, Steam, Switch. I don't know if this is true on the consoles, but on Steam, there is a demo as well that you can download for free. So there you go.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, I really like it. I think people will be surprised by it. It's kind of a combination turn-based RPG, monster collection, like a Persona, like a Pokemon. Certainly the pixel art, which can have, even though there are a lot of games that have pixel art, they can be kind of more effective with pixel art and less effective. I think this is some of the strongest pixel art I've seen in the indie space. Really colorful, really interesting, and very much vibrant in the monster designs and the various things that you're doing. The combat feels crunchy and interesting in a way that it doesn't have to if you just wind up making an RPG kind of builder game.
Yeah.
So
cool.
I like it a lot.
Very cool. Yeah, like I said, it's both recent and all reviews are very positive on the Steam scale, so that's good, and looks like it's well regarded. Very cool.
I am playing it on the Switch, so if you're interested, it'll play well on the Switch.
Very cool. Yeah, I guess in the indie space, then I'll shout out Nine Souls, and I think it was we talked about this one a little bit. This one hit Game Pass about a month ago, maybe just in December. And it's considered like a 2D side-scrolling Sekiro is how it's often referred to, because it's got a combat style where you're parrying and, building up your skills and, timing matters and all that stuff, boss battles. But it's really well regarded. And so I wanted to at least put a little time into it. Admittedly, I'm very, very little time into it. I'm still on like the first section. But it is charming so far. It definitely has that, you kind of have to parry at the right time. Combat, it teaches you pretty early on. And then you start building into your skill tree and it evolves from there. But from what I've read and the people I've talked to, it really builds into a really strong narrative and story. And it's more kind of charming and I guess touching than you would expect out of a game of that, which I don't know, maybe we talk about indies quite a bit here. So I think that we all recognize that indies tell some fantastic stories. So I don't think that should be surprising. But yeah, I would check that out, especially given that it's now on Game Pass. So I know a lot of people can just give it a look for free. But it's called Nine Souls, SOLS.
Yes,
it's got a
like
cat,
sons.
samurai cat. Yes. So definitely check that out. I think it was someone shouted that out for us a while ago, and I'm forgetting who that was, but that's okay. Neither here nor there.
Well, it has been nominated in like the spaces that nominate indie games for Game of the Year. I, like so many Game Pass games, saw that it hit Game Pass, downloaded it, have not played it yet. Sitting there on my Xbox waiting.
Okay. Yeah, I had it installed for a while, and I hadn't gotten to it, and I was like, I got to make sure to do this. So, yeah, check it out. It's another good one. It was Asante. That's who I'm thinking of. Kay Asante, who guested on the show, a few months back. He's the one who first brought that up and made me give it a look. So shout out to Asante and the gaming circle. But the last one I want to talk about, and we can kind of go on to some other games as well, is Stalker 2. Did either of you get into Stalker 2 at all?
I got out of the first area.
Okay.
So no.
Yeah, I haven't even turned it on, but I own it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll just talk quickly then. I've put several hours into this now. Trying to get into it. It is a huge game. I've talked to people, like I said, who have 80, 90, 100 hours in this game. So I'm still extremely early. But again, I am enjoying it more and more. It definitely is that Western RPG, open sandbox shooter type of thing where you manage your inventory, you manage your health, things hurt you really quickly. That type of thing. So if you enjoy that type of game, definitely check it out. I've been surprised at the level of kind of engagement I've had with it, in the sense of, you make decisions, you can do quests in different ways, and you can kind of just go off and do whatever the hell you want, which I love. So
I do think it can grab you. I've had a couple of play sessions with it where it did grab me. I find this game to be on the opposite end of what we were talking about with Astrobot and Helldivers, where this one seems to lack a level of polish, and I get kicked out by, I don't want to listen in Ukrainian. There's too much going on, and I really don't like the English voice acting. So it tends to say I should be spending my time doing something else.
The voice acting isn't great, that's for sure. Yeah. Shout out to Luke, Xbox Expansion Passion in the chat. He said Asante was on XCP yesterday. Very cool.
Nice.
Asante's great people, as is Luke. So thank you. What was I going to say? Real quick, before we talk about a couple more games, got a couple of super chats been sitting. Let's grab those real fast.
Random_name, $4.99. Hogue, do you think third person was still the way to go for Indiana Jones? I know that was one of your big complaints when it was announced.
I think that the combat of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle would be improved had they built it around a third-person engine. I think they could have even done that and popped out for third-person combat based on what they do with climbing ladders and using the whip and things. But no, overall, I think the game is perfectly fine, very playable, and as immersive as they had promised and hoped it to be in first-person mode. So I would make some tweaks to the game because I really don't like the combat at all. But I think that first-person was a good choice at the end of the day.
Yeah,
I agree.
I've come to enjoy it in first person as well. I think it was the right choice. It's good.
First person feels right. It's also what the studio is good at. But I do agree with the criticism that like the combat is whatever. It also, you don't spend a lot of your time doing it. Like 5 minutes here and there.
You're better at stealth than I am, Travis.
Yeah, I snuck everywhere. I barely fought.
Yeah, I didn't fight anybody. I just
so apparently I'm playing the game wrong. I know we're not supposed to say things like that, but when I wind up with a pile of Nazis in front of me that all came in charging around the corner and got punched in the face, I don't love that.
Are you not wearing a disguise? Just wear a disguise, then they don't attack you.
Not when you're invading their base.
You can invade their base wearing a disguise.
If you found it. Yeah, if you have found it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I am not currently dressed as a Nazi, Travis. I have standards.
No, I'm always dressed as a Nazi under the suit. It's part of my...
No, I really like the game, but I have been thinking that this would be better maybe if they had popped out for some kind of third-person combat choice. But no, I think the beat in the Great Circle that is the best is kind of finding a new tomb, going down the secret staircase, holding up the torch, seeing the dust in the air. And like that really is something that feels new in video games. Even though as I describe it, you feel like you've done that already in games. In Indiana Jones, they've managed to make it as immersive as they promised in their marketing materials. It does feel new.
It's very cool.
Yeah, it's very well done. Yep. Phil Spencer swinging by. Shout out to Phil.
Phil Spencer, paying with euros in Seattle, Washington, says €2. He says this podcast is an Xbox.
He's traveling,
He's right.
Yeah, he's also on VPN. You know what I mean? He's not going to give away his IP address. Can you play an Xbox game on Bitcast YouTube channel? Is that possible? Can we make this an Xbox? Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, okay. we could stream it and broadcast it live. Yeah.
Some Nine Sols on Game Pass.
Nice.
I don't know. I feel like there's a way to turn this podcast into an Xbox, and once I crack that, we're gonna have a hell of a business model here.
Much like Microsoft hopes to.
Yeah. Very
Phil,
true.
Thanks for swinging by. Hope you're doing well.
Absolutely.
Hopefully we'll see something new on your shelf soon. Don
Lionheart, $5 super chat. Happy New Year, Bitcast. Final boss of Metaphor is done. Partying.
Good on not naming
emoji face. Still some post final boss. Something to do. Not sure. Was 5 a.m. We'll update when done. Very cool.
Metaphor is fantastic. I highly recommend it to anybody that's interested in JRPGs at all.
How far are you in it, Hogue?
How far am I in it? Third major city.
Don't listen to his recommendation, folks. This guy's casual.
I believe it says
he couldn't finish it because he was playing Xenoblade. Come on.
I believe
this is
I believe it says I've played it for 55 hours.
You're not even halfway done.
55 hours, Travis. I can comment on this game.
Eat your porridge, sir. I don't know. Yeah, it's a long game.
Yeah, I've heard. But I will say the people that enjoy these types of games that I've spoken to all adore this game.
It's great.
So yeah, it's good.
Infinite Wealth is my favorite JRPG of the year, but Metaphor is fantastic.
Infinite Wealth is better.
Yeah, Infinite Wealth is the game I listed as the one that I started, but really need to go back to. Like, that number one game you want to go back and play more of, that's Infinite Wealth for me. I need to get back to it.
Yeah, that was my favorite JRPG. Unfortunately, Rebirth did not make my top 10.
I didn't think it would, given the commentary you had on it. But Don, thank you as always.
Understand how far it had to fall. Like in the preseason rankings, if you're familiar with college football, those kinds of things, it would have been number 1 or number 2, and it really fell off the top 10.
It ended unranked. Don, thanks. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Mr. Eric.
Game Positive offers a wrench and $6.99 Canadian. Hope everyone's 2025 is looking as good as Travis's dumplings and is as fulfilling as Poor Shopper's stew. I like Poor
Shopper is your reading of your handle.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you're not familiar, my gamer tag is Porsche Power, but like years ago, someone joined one of our parties when we were gaming in a group, and someone said, "Who's Poor Shopper?" And I was like, "Poor Shopper," and it's become a running joke ever since. So that's where that comes from.
I called him Parasha Purpur the first time I hopped in.
I couldn't read it at all.
Yeah. I was like, Parasha Purpur. Interesting.
Yeah. You're the only one who's actually gotten it, Travis. Well done.
Yeah, I got it first try.
$6.99 Canadian, so it's like 42 cents. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate you, my friend.
Something like that. From our 51st date. Very cool.
51st date. All right. Let's see. There's a few other games I touched on as well, but I don't think anything worth really kind of diving into. Any other games you want to touch on before we talk about the rest of 2024 and some of these other points we wanted to touch on?
Unless we're going to start a board game podcast.
Oh my God. I was about to mention a board game.
No.
Well, you can mention it, but just, yeah.
One of the other things that I do when family comes into town is play board games with them. So
nice.
That's really more of what I played than video games over the break.
Yeah, I could tell. Okay. Casual. Fake gamer girl. Yeah, I also have a board game to recommend. Blood on the Clock Tower. Anybody heard of it? Anybody
of course. Yes.
Great game.
I got to poison my brother for many, many turns in a row playing Blood on the Clock Tower.
Nice. Classic poisoner move. Yeah, I'm really into that game, and I'm doing I'm not going to be here next weekend because I'm doing a board game retreat with my nerdy friends, and we're going to be playing a lot of that game. I'm going to be storyteller.
A board game retreat.
Yeah, dude. We're cool, dog.
Hey,
that's like Mount Rushmore of nerdism. Which
Yeah,
is,
dude, we rented
it's awesome, by the way. I'm not making fun of you, but that's up
rented an
there.
Airbnb with like 12 bedrooms, and we're just going out there. There's a pool, hot tub, billiards table, basketball court. We're just living
None
in a
of which will
mansion.
get touched.
We're living in a mansion playing board games. Hey, I'll play some basketball. I'll shoot some hoops. That'll be fun. It's gonna be fun.
That's cool, though.
I think it's great. Honestly, when I was recovering in my first year after my stroke, my brother rented a cabin out in the woods of nowhere here in Michigan, and brought all the board games so that we could play outside of having to deal with therapy and everything else. So I think that's great.
Cool. Hope
Travis, have a good time.
You're invited. I'll see you there. We got a bunk for you.
Luke says, I desperately wish I had friends close enough by to do a board game retreat. And I said, me too. Yeah, no, it does sound fun.
You could just cut the end of that.
No, but for folks that don't know Blood on the Clock Tower, Blood on the Clock Tower is a game that is mostly played at conventions and things like a board game retreat, because it takes really a couple dozen players at once to play a game in which like everybody closes their eyes and has different roles and tries to identify the bad people in the village and all that kind of stuff. But with one person, in this case, Travis, who said he was going to be the storyteller, knowing everybody's roles and having to control through an elaborate set of instructions who's going to be told what in what order in order to get good information and bad information out there so that the people can play during their sections and try to figure out who the bad people are and then have them, as you do, executed.
It is a very cool social deduction game, and it has so many layers and levels of complexity. And the more you get into it, you realize like, oh my God, you could play this game like 100 times in a row and not have any overlap. And it's very cool. So I've been getting really into that. I'm gonna be playing that next week. That's why I'm not gonna be here. Sorry guys, but sometimes you gotta be a dork.
We have to change the name of this podcast to something more nerdy.
Ains and I'll just play Blood on the Clock Tower live on stream, just two people. It'll be great.
Hey,
there you go.
I'd love to be your storyteller and figure out which two of you is evil.
Eric said, I see your board game retreat and raise you Halo CE LAN party on original hardware and CRT TVs. I say combine the two.
Yeah, we did that at my bachelor party. My bachelor party was the Halo LAN party. So
yeah,
we get after it, man. We get after it.
You're lucky I wasn't invited to that.
I like it, Travis.
It would have been fun. Dude, we had some OG, like me and two of my friends who were there. We were all 50 rank in Halo 2. And we were playing with people who like didn't realize that there's no sprint in old Halo games. And it was just such a bloodbath. You'd have loved it, Ains. It was great.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a cool game.
That's awesome though. Yeah, so I think as we kind of think about on 2024, I just put a couple notes here for us, but I was thinking about just the year in gaming in general. And I think there's a couple topics like of the industry I wanted to touch on. The biggest one being, for me anyway, is kind of where the industry is going this year and the trends of what we're seeing in games. I pulled up some commentary about this from a few analysts and some other things, but like Matt Piscatella, shout out to Matt. He basically had a point that he was talking about last week, and I engaged with him a little bit on it. And sorry, I'm pulling up right now just to read it directly. But he said, specifically, the market has stratified. The biggest games are the same as the biggest 5 years ago, and they may be the same 5 biggest games 5 years from now. Going forward, discovery, encouraging trials, and incentivizing the mass market to play anything else is going to be important to the future health of the entire market. And I think this ties in a little bit to what Gregor's was bringing up earlier with his comment and some of the other commentary I've seen around. Like I saw another commentary from a developer at a studio talking about there were a lot of big games that released this year that when we say big, right, like what would have traditionally been a big game in the market that either didn't sell well, didn't get a ton of notoriety, kind of went by the wayside. And it feels like we're seeing that more and more. And what Matt has pointed out with his data from the MPD group and some of the other, analysts have pointed out is that that's because people really only are engaging with a handful of games day to day, right? They play their Fortnites, they play their Call of Duties. We've talked about this, right? They play those handful of games that just keep content coming and they keep spending money on. And as they continue spending money on those games, they feel invested in those games. And so then it becomes even harder to get them to move to something new, right? And that's just a cycle that continues to seemingly repeat itself and strengthen year over year. And so, as Matt said, the top 5 most played games of last year were the same 5 games they were in 2023. You know, and that, I don't know your guys' thoughts, but it feels like we're getting all these great games. There's so many, especially in the indie market, right? Which we try to talk about more here and kind of raise awareness on. But it feels like there are so many games releasing that are so good and just get completely ignored, not even maybe on purpose. But just the fact that people either don't have enough time, don't have enough money, or both, because they're already engaging in something continually. You know, it's a weird time, I think, in that space for gaming.
I think in a down economy, or even what people perceive as a down economy, free-to-play games are going to have an advantage. So it's no surprise that the Fortnites of the world can take what they've already got built in and then say, we're just going to expand that with people that are looking to play something but don't want to spend any money on it. So I think that's part of the story. I think another part of the story is, and we've talked about this for years and years and years, that selling forever games, selling live service games with constant updates and free-to-play entry was always going to take up the oxygen in the room once it got to a certain level, a threshold of audience, because you can't sustain a number of those at once. And mostly, if anybody's like me, you might pick out, lucky for them, 2 or 3, but more likely 1, a game to really focus on, to go and pay for your cosmetics and everything else. And then I'm a Fortnite guy, or I'm a Call of Duty guy, or I'm a Skull and Bones guy, whatever it is. And Skull and Bones is not that same free-to-play entry point. And you saw that it had much more difficulty getting that kind of purchase in the marketplace. But I really think it's a story of the economy, and it's a story of AAA games spending too much to get made, right? We talk about things like Dragon Age Veilguard, which, Ains, you loved, I liked. A lot of people did like it, but like it's too expensive. It took too much out of the company and resources to make that game, instead of something that can go compete with these forever games. So it's no surprise that the industry is changing. Industries are constantly changing, but I wouldn't be as scared of this as maybe is suggested by the commentary from Matt. I think the industry will continue to morph, but I don't think that it means that everything that we love about it is going to be gone all of a sudden.
Yeah, I don't think he's necessarily saying that as dire, maybe, right? But just kind of raising awareness that this is occurring. And it's the first time we've seen it occur, I think, is what is the point, right? This is new for the industry.
Well, kind of. I mean,
in the past few years, maybe.
You could look back and say, like, World of Warcraft has been around for like 20 years and people have been playing that game in enormous numbers. And so there's always been like ongoing games, you know, as long as I've been alive, there's been ongoing games that have been like really dominant and impactful and have kind of had a lot of clout in the industry. I think the top 5 games is a really weird data point to focus on, especially if you're trying to draw a larger narrative around where the industry's at. The top 5 games being the same games doesn't really surprise me. The fact that the people playing top 5 games are not buying other games also isn't surprising, because those are probably the people that were previously just buying like Call of Duty every year, right? And spending less money on those games, but they were basically playing the same 1, 2, 3 games.
The FIFAs, the Call of Duties, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think that that's a huge change. I think you have to look beyond the top 5 games if you want to understand like where the industry's headed. And what I see is that like the game market is getting bigger. There's room for all types of games to succeed. A lot of those games are succeeding, but also there's just a lot of money and people chasing after the dollars in the games industry. And there's also a lot of failure and experimentation and things not hitting for reasons that people can't understand. And I think that's okay. I think I don't know. I'm not as like down on the industry just because the most popular games are old games that I don't play. Like, you know, I'm not.
No, and I think 2024 was a year that we saw a lot of great stories of games that you wouldn't have expected, right? We started last year with Pal World, for God's sakes. And it didn't have any kind of street credibility. It didn't have any kind of marketing push that I'm aware of. It had Pokemon type designs, and it had word of mouth.
IGN gave it to me to review as a joke.
Yeah. But last year was also the year of Black Myth Wukong, right? And you have this game that has a kind of difficult name to remember for Western audiences. It isn't obviously going to be a huge hit. It's a massive hit. And yes, a lot of that massive hit is not in the Western audience necessarily, but that's a part of the story as well. So I do think that 2024 is a year where analysts maybe and media maybe got the rug pulled out from under them as to what they were expecting to be big versus what was actually big. But I don't think that's a problem for gaming. I think that's a good thing, honestly.
So I guess not a counterpoint, but just a point. We saw how many studios struggled last year. We saw how many studios were closed. We saw how many layoffs occurred, the most that's ever occurred in a single year in the industry. And the industry's growing, to Travis's point, so those aren't one-to-one. It's not apples to apples.
Well, the one thing I would say, and I'm gonna let you finish. I'm gonna Kanye this, Haynes. The thing that doesn't get reported on as much as it should is net jobs. Like I don't ever see. Correct. They always report on the layoffs. They never report on like the groups hiring at the same time. So the net jobs is not nearly as bad as the catastrophic numbers of layoffs.
That was kind of my point.
Sorry about that.
No. But I mean, you said it better than I did in the fact that the industry's growing. So you can't just take a number and say, you know what I mean? The numerator and the denominator have to.
There's also a number of layoffs, and I would say probably a majority of them, since they're coming from a lot of the larger companies with larger employee bases, that are not based on companies doing poorly. They're based on profit margins and trends in the business community that is about reducing headcount, and it has nothing to do with like these companies struggling. Like they're largely profitable and they're just cutting heads because they can, and it makes them look good.
Which is a different conversation as well.
Very different, and it doesn't have to do with like games failing or whatever. I think more games are successful. The industry is like less risky. Like, I mean, I remember when I was younger, companies would go out like all the time, and the one or two games would not hit, and they would be like out of business. So, I don't know. I'm not. I think the data point of looking at the top 5 games played is essentially meaningless when you're trying to describe the health and direction of the games industry.
I do think lock-in is a useful and interesting thing to consider, right? Like there is some amount of lock-in with the cosmetics you've bought in Fortnite. Sure. And we are seeing that. This is the same thing that we saw with the generational change with Phil Spencer, who was in our chat earlier, obviously, talking about the fact that the last generation was a bad one to lose because people got locked into the digital libraries. That's the same on a micro basis, on a game-to-game basis, right? Like the Fortnite cosmetics don't translate over to Diablo 4, don't translate over to whatever the next thing is that you want to play. So you do feel like I'm going to stick with Fortnite, even if I'm enjoying, God forbid, Marvel Rivals more at this point.
Well, the other data point to the top 5, and again, to your point, Travis, you shouldn't just look at 5, but I think the other point is those top 5 are also pulling in a bigger percentage of players, right? So it's not like you can't just say these are the top 5, but it's only 5% of the user base. It's a huge chunk of players, right, of the market.
But top played doesn't mean that that's all they're playing or that's all they have interest in, or like I just don't know what you're trying to prove by pointing at the top played games, except for that people are still hanging on to and enjoying their games. But like you play Rocket League a lot, and that's like an old game that came out a long time ago, but it doesn't mean you're not buying new games that you have no interest in them. It's just like something you do when you got a small pocket of time and you want to turn your brain off and hang out with your buddies. And I think that doesn't really mean a whole lot to me about like where the industry is going or what is healthy or is this wrong or is this right. I just think it's what's happening. People are playing these longer tail games, and obviously a lot of those games are really popular because they've had time to amass momentum, right? And they're kind of they have this gravity to them. People are playing them. And I get why you wouldn't want to go to maybe another live service game, but that's like a live service game problem. It's not going to scratch the itch of like, oh, well, I could play Astrobot, but I guess I'll just play Fortnite.
Yeah, but I think it's wrong to combine the notion that those are necessarily the same people, right? I think it's wrong, as you say, Travis, to say that they're not the same people, but I don't think we can say that they are the same. This is the same issue I've had with people saying, everybody's a gamer because everybody plays a phone game from time to time. Like there is a difference between the guy that wants to play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and the guy that is content playing college football until the sun sets, right? There are different things that are happening even in games, right? You can't just say that, oh, the Fortnite guy might well play Astrobot. Might not.
Yeah.
The guy that's playing the forever game, shooting with his buddies, may not translate over. And one of the things I think, honestly, Sony's learning with Concord or whatever is that what they are good at, what they're known for, what they have marketed as is this single player premium HBO experience in video games doesn't necessarily translate to just bringing over the shooter fan or doesn't translate certainly into the business model of selling it for $40, right? There's all these lessons to be learned. I think they are good. And I do want to stand up for Matt Piscatelli here for just a second. You used the word prove. My understanding of watching Matt on social media is that he doesn't seek to prove anything. He makes kind of off-the-cuff observations based on parts of charts that he sees. I think they are useful. Sure. I think they are informative, but I don't think he's trying to prove a point necessarily as this is what occurred to me when I looked at this little piece of chart.
Yeah, I think the comment that I can't remember what Ames said, but that the market has kind of stratified or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. Like, stratified. I don't know that makes a lot of sense with the data that he's looking at. I think you're right. Like, they're not the same players. I think my opinion is that there's a generation of like Fortnite players who like grew up and they're like me with Halo 2. Like that's just our game. And that generation is probably already passed. And a lot of them are still playing Fortnite, but I don't think it's like, to your point, I think there's people that are playing Call of Duty. I think a lot of those people have moved over to Warzone and they are the same people, but I think you can track some of that. And I think the people playing Fortnite are of a very specific generation where that game just like popped off and a lot of them are still playing it. But I don't know that it says anything about the games industry, maybe for AAA, maybe for live service games, but I wouldn't say like generally that it really means anything, I guess.
Well, I think it does mean something to budgets and AAA, right? It does mean that it's going to be a little bit more difficult to pierce the veil of interest, selling your Dragon Age, selling your whatever it is that you're going to sell on a AAA basis, because there is this kind of overlying blanket of possibilities of games that you can go play free to play that you might already be invested in. And it's going to be a little bit harder to get people's interest, right? When Netflix goes out with their quarterly statement and says, we're competing against video games, it's the same in the opposite direction. That video games are competing against free to play live service. They're competing against mobile. They're competing against streaming services. And it's a different environment than it used to be. Do I think that's bad? No. Do I think it's the end of gaming? No. But I'm out here constantly saying, try this indie game. There's hundreds of games that come out virtually every week, some of which are going to hit for you. And a lot of people are not going to try that because essentially we're in a mirror image of like being the film school guys that tell you to go watch this black and white movie from the 50s because it's going to be better than the latest Transformers movie. And some people are going to listen to that. A lot of people are not.
Sure.
Yeah. I think it's all valid points.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, and we've talked about this for a few years now, right? I think nearly everyone has, is that there's only so much time and only so much capability to even play games. And there are simply too many games to play. And, when to your point, Travis, let's say I invest half my time in playing shooters with my friends, be it Finals, Halo, Rocket League, the stuff you talked about. That already cuts the little time I have in general of gaming in half, right, to spend on new games. And when games are Veilguards, they're Metaphors, they're Stalkers, even smaller single player games now can be 20, 30 hours. And multiple of those releasing a week, it's the math doesn't work.
I mean, it doesn't work if you look at one person, but if you look at millions of billions of gamers, course, depending on how you look at it, I think it starts to make more sense, especially when the market's expanding all the time. And the other thing is like people's times are different. Like, I don't have time to play all the games I want to play, but like, think about how many commenters we have that are like, it should be a 4-hour podcast. Like, I don't understand that perspective either, but my time is different than most people. So I don't know. We might just be a different market when it comes to like our time. But yeah, time is like the ultimate thing that you're fighting for in a company, whether it's Netflix versus a video game. Like, they're all fighting for like your valuable recreational hours and your free income that you have, your recreational income. So yeah, I don't know. It's ongoing. To the question that he super chatted of like, do you think these AAA developers who got laid off have a chance?
Yes. I did not star it, but I'm sorry for that. But yes, basically saying exactly kind of what we're talking about, which is why I wanted to bring it up, is like you have some of these bigger, longer developers now, longer term developers who have been together for a decade or more, he said, and they'll come out with a game. And if that game doesn't hit and it goes by the wayside, like some of the games we're talking about, that can break that group up. It can ruin the studio, right? That was his concern as we talk about the market at large.
Yeah, I think that those people absolutely have a chance in the industry.
Right,
I think
right
a
here.
lot of them, I think a lot of them will probably leave just for economic reasons. It's like, look, this isn't worth it or whatever. I can make more money making SaaS software or something. I'm sure that's probably going to be happening. But I do think that if these people want to stay in the industry, there's going to be a place for them, especially since in the past we've seen that companies going away means that new companies exist, or people getting laid off means that those people turn around and become entrepreneurs. At least in the country I live in, I see that a lot, and I think it's like, I think when you get creatives together, they want to create stuff. I don't think that them getting laid off means that their dreams are dead. It just means that hopefully there's going to be a new project around the corner. So,
well, and I can't pretend to know everything on that list, but those predominantly are not layoffs that I recognize. Those are people that left to form their own studios. That's like Respawn, right? Respawn is a AAA alumni team that obviously made good. But I would add to that list Archetype. I've talked about Exodus here a lot as the spiritual successor, the place I'm putting my hopes in for Mass Effect rather than BioWare. You saw Rebel Wolves there. That's part of the Witcher team going off and making their own game.
Yep.
And I am very much on that boat. Obviously, Hoag and Hoag's Notes is not determining success in the market. That is not that is not what I do. I am not a good signal for that. But I very much think that those kinds of teams can succeed. Honestly, I think that they have, in some ways, a better chance of succeeding on a kind of creative, critical, quality basis than some of the things that are stuck in the bigger organizations that maybe don't have the same kind of creative impulse as just the creatives running the ship. But like a Star Citizen or anything else, you leave the confines of friendly bureaucracy, you can get caught in scope creep and other things that can happen, and you don't wind up with a product that can help that team to thrive. So I think it can succeed. I don't think there's any reason it can't. Getting attention in this marketplace is always going to be the trick. You see however many thousands of games release on Steam. You see however many thousands of games are on the eShop or the PlayStation Network store. That's hard. I think to some extent, Archetype and Exodus has broken through there, probably with spending some money on Game Awards trailers. I think that's where I first heard of them. I know the Rebel Wolves team has a launch announcement coming at the end of this month for their Witcher-like game, and I'm hopeful for that as well. But I definitely think it can succeed. I don't think it's a guarantee, but I think it can succeed because Palworld succeeds, Balatro succeeds. You can get that lucky lightning strike if you just hit the zeitgeist and the people love you. But it's a risk, like anything else. Entrepreneurship is a risk inherently.
Yeah, I think I actually think this market is probably one of the more accepting of like this whole first AAA studio breaks off and creates a new one, just because people aren't as closed-minded of like, well, I'm only going to play this game. There's a lot more gamers. There's a lot of people with different interests. And, there's a time you would never see a cozy game on like a big platform, a big stage, because it was just such a niche, or dating sims. And I feel like now that's way more common. So, I think some of these guys will succeed. Some will fail for a variety of reasons. And that's just how it goes. But yeah, I think they all have a good chance.
Fair enough. Sorry, I was checking out some comments. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch how it evolves in 2025. I don't know. We'll see what we see. I think your commentary on Veilguard is notable, Hoag, for the reason that there's some more kind of insight coming out about the development of that game. We already knew that game went through some things, right? And years of development, and there's more coming out about it being just wild, essentially, like what went on behind the scenes to get that game out the door.
It definitely feels cobbled together. Like, I think they came out with a good product. I do. But it definitely feels cobbled together in some important ways. You can see that even from just the outside in.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest things that these bigger companies, and we've talked about this a bit too, but like the Xboxes, the Craftons, the Plions, all these companies that have these tons of development studios, the efficiency of how they make those games and get them out the door, and the efficiency of which they manage their portfolios, their development teams, their talent is absolutely critical. We talked about that when Xbox and Microsoft acquired ABK. It's going to be critical to the success of not only their games, but the future of those studios. And I think that Concord is probably another good example there, right? We don't know definitively, but it seems like that game took a while to get completed. It aimed at a market that really closed out. The social commentary around it didn't help it, and it just landed flat on its face. And it cost the studio it cost the entire studio at the end of the day.
And I really like Concord. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I have a great deal of respect for both the indie developers and the not so indie developers that find a way to make these things efficiently and still fun and interesting on their own. I've talked a lot in this space and others about how much I like RGG, right? Yakuza Like a Dragon. We see that we've got Pirates in Hawaii coming in February. Part of that model is we're going to build these cities, we're going to build these open worlds, and then we're going to use them again and tell a different story, because the storytelling is cheaper, it's more efficient, it's easier than the development of all these assets and building all these Hawaiian islands and everything else. And I would see more companies take a look at what they can do there, because I think that is a way forward, not just for the RGGs of the world, but even the Sonys and the bigger companies that are just making AAA polished stuff. I would like to see that happen, because I think there is a way to succeed there without rebuilding the wheel every 8 years, because I don't think it's sustainable to have a Grand Theft Auto only every 3 generations, to have a Final Fantasy only show up every 15 years. Like, I don't think that works. I think Square Enix is feeling it. I think Rockstar isn't feeling it because of Grand Theft Auto Online, but I don't think you want to keep taking that lottery ticket and hoping that it saves your company every time.
All fair points. I think we've talked about that, right? RGG and From, I think, are probably the two best examples of.
From's another good one.
Yeah, being extremely efficient in how they do those things. And I think that's necessary. The development cadence is definitely critical. I think that's what, has hurt Xbox in a few ways, with Halo being another example in that same vein. Here they are starting over. Basically, they announced they're starting over formally with Halo Studios and Unreal Engine,
and hire people.
Yeah, and that's going to put you at what? Let's say, even if you do your first project as a remake of CE, which is what's currently rumored, right? Whether or not that's true, that puts the gap between Halo Infinite and your next Halo game at several years at a minimum, which, to Hoax's point, it's not really tenable if you're trying to keep an IP in total relevance, unless you have something like a GTA Online, which nearly no one does. But the point being, that you can't lean on that. So
yeah, I think that's right. And the hope, I think, for Halo Studios or anything else that Microsoft is doing is that they are going back and building these pipelines up, right? We've talked for years and years and years in this space about waiting for Microsoft and their acquisitions to actually get this pipeline fully functional. I think 2025 might be that year. I hope. I really do hope. But if you're going back to foundational principles, I think you can take a Halo Studios and say, instead of making an engine that does this and makes it difficult, you can go to Unreal. You can do other things to make it more tenable, to get that pipeline down to something like a 3 to 5 year cadence at the maximum, because you need to keep people's interest. If you're going to have value in IP, if you're going to have value in a brand, it has to have a cadence of some kind. And Halo every 2 decades is not going to work.
I think every single game should use the same model as GTA. Take 15 years to make it, custom engine,
2,000 contractors
built from the ground up, $5 billion to make, and then if you make it and it's a success, then you're one of the biggest, most successful companies ever. And if you don't, whatever, dude, that's probably a write-off. $5 billion, just write it off.
You write off the future income you don't have.
Yeah, exactly. Easy.
Yeah, I mean, that's bet the company. I think that's
every company like that.
That's a fundamentally unhealthy system, but yeah, it can work.
Do it. Every company, all of them. big or small.
Black John points out Insomniac too with Spider-Man, Spider-Man Miles Morales and Spider-Man 2, very kind of similar thought process there.
Insomniac's always been a workhorse.
You're telling me you don't want a dating sim that took 15 years and $5 billion?
Travis.
First of all, Travis, I don't know what you would spend that on in a dating sim, but I would worry about it.
But he's thinking about it. He's considering it. We don't know.
I've played more dating sims since I met you, man.
I know. I got you to play one over the break.
I'm currently playing Date Z.
Date Z,
where you try to find a date to fend off a zombie apocalypse. No, basically it says there's a zombie apocalypse at the end of the week. If you have a date, you have a chance of surviving. Go figure things out.
So you're basically trying to find somebody to date before the zombie apocalypse hits, which is an interesting question because you're both looking for a compatible partner, but also somebody you think you could survive the apocalypse with.
It reminds me of Eternites. You might remember that one in terms of combining kind of apocalypse with your dating sim.
Yeah, exactly. Very cool. I also got him to play Doki Doki Literature Club, which I am still shocked you played. That
was excellent.
Game. Yeah, what a great game, right?
I do like visual novels play that one.
Yeah. I noticed, so randomly on my PS5 Pro, I was going back through my library of PlayStation games and seeing what games I wanted to reinstall and all that, right? And I happened to notice, I guess it was PS Plus 1 month, but I have Doki Doki Literature Club owned, and I'm like,
play that.
Why do I have
like a dating sim? But it's really not, Ains.
It starts off, you think it's one thing, and then it becomes not that, and you're like, what the am I playing? It's pretty brutal.
Yeah,
I've heard good things about it.
Doki Doki put me in a mood for a couple days. That was a trip.
A little scary. It's a little scary.
Like actually scary.
Yeah.
Well,
psychological horror.
Yeah. So what do you mean by scary? It's not going to have people jump out at you for the most part, but it does have that kind of dread.
Okay. All right. Hey, you're interesting me. You're getting there.
Yeah. He's thinking about it.
I'm thinking about it.
Let's get a $5 billion budget for the next one.
What would you even spend that money on to make a Doki Doki Plus?
God, you know what? If you gave that budget to my wife, she would be like, all right, let's start this. We gotta
she'd have a full project plan.
Oh yeah, because here's the thing. People who like cozy games and dating sims, they have no limit to their capacity for like what they see as in the future. It's very ambitious.
You're not bound by gaming convention.
Yeah, because anytime you tell them something like, oh yeah, you can do this in the game, they're like, but can you do this? They always have like a but can you? And it's like a thing that would never be in a game. It's like, what? No, of course you can't do that. Like, are you insane?
Ames, I just want you to know you're gonna have to set off a segment for Travis and Rick to discuss Date Everything when it comes out on Valentine's Day.
Oh, I'm reviewing it.
Okay. Yeah. You're reviewing it. Okay. Well, we'll
cover
it.
Okay, so you have to talk about it.
I don't have to do anything, but we can make time for it.
It's in our contract.
I certainly didn't review Travis's contract if that's in it.
No, Hogue wrote it. I signed it. And Hogue was wearing a red suit when I signed it, and he said, "You won't pay money."
Well, as we tell everyone here, Hogue's advice can be used as legal advice. So I mean,
that's right? Yeah, and so can my advice. Everything I say is legal advice.
Look at Hogue's face. It physically pays him every time we say that.
He's not here. That's good.
You can't even put the hat down because it's just an advertisement for your law firm. So that doesn't help you at all, sir.
He looks like Ash Ketchum in the series finale. He's like ready to choose Pikachu for the last
time. Get my
time.
Indiana Jones fedora and just fall asleep.
Yeah.
I will shout out to Sardanisms Ray in this vein, because since joining SG, she has written about multiple cozy games and has expanded my knowledge of them quite a bit in just having conversations with her. So it's definitely, to Travis's point, it's a whole different world out there for that audience. Couple super chats to get to. Then I want to mention another topic I want to touch on.
Don Lionheart, $5 super chat. For what it's worth, Veilguard's previous iterations are not being counted against BioWare when it comes to success / profitability. BioWare said years ago.
I really think when you hear statements like that, I'm sure that's true. I'm sure that EA said that we're going to treat this as a new iteration and we're only going to check your ROI based on this investment. But it doesn't change the actual dollars out the door that EA spent when it's considering the entirety of the endeavor, right? So there are two distinct things happening here. One is kind of finances, how your gap is covered in how you're telling your investors something did, and how you feel about the people and company that is your subsidiary and what they produced for you. So I have no doubt that you are correct, Don, but I don't think that saves BioWare from the conversation that may be a tough one if Veilguard didn't come anywhere near to what EA hoped after that level of expenditure.
Nothing to add. Yes, perfectly fair. Thank you, Don. Nissa with a member comment.
Nissa Hauer has been a member for 18 months and writes, excited more to 2 cozy games more than action ones.
Yeah, Nissa's a cozy fan for sure.
Likes cozy games.
Yeah.
I love cozy games.
Shout out to Nissa, big supporter of all of our shows, from Luke to me to Nerd Chat to a bunch of our shows, always hanging out. So shout out to Nissa. Thank you, Nissa. All right. One other thing I want to talk to you guys about as soon as I actually get this off the screen, if I can find it again. Sorry for that. Portable gaming. So I wanted to ask you guys about this because obviously we touched on prior to the new year, the Switch 2, it's the worst kept secret, right? It's not a secret, but I mean, it's like everything's leaking about it now. So the Switch 2 is going to be coming soon. The Steam Deck has been seemingly very successful for Valve. You have the other devices out there like the ROG Ally. There's a whole bunch of them now. And I know, at least anecdotally for me, people I engage with are using portable devices constantly, not phones, but just these other kind of native devices. PlayStation Portable selling multiple millions of units. I don't think any of us would have bet on that when it was announced. And that seems to be doing well for PlayStation too. So all of these things, I just want to bring up, like Xbox has also said, Phil Spencer said that they are examining portable gaming and they have something kind of in dev there. PlayStation's talking about potentially having a next portable, actual true, not a portal, but a true dedicated portable thing. Do you see this as a growing market, going forward, which seems weird to me for some reason? Maybe it's just me.
I do not, but I will say this. I do not, because I don't see a world in which Sony and Microsoft can sell their portable devices as exclusive walled garden console kind of concepts with the Steam Deck out there, right? These companies have already gone and taken their games and put them in various places on PC. I think Steam is going to be the winner and ultimate place where those wind up on all PC axes. And the Steam Deck is going to dominate whatever goes out the door for Sony or Microsoft on that score. But as I say that, I do want to give my personal tilt/disclaimer, which is that I have no idea where the market for PlayStation Portal is coming from. Like, I have no idea what the use case is, who's buying that and happy with that purchase. I do not know. So I will admit that.
I think the opposite of Hogue. I think that these are going to be.
Oh, do I get to use it? Where is it?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's a versus.
No, not really, but I'm going to use it anyway. Yay!
Sure, versus and a rainbow, so I can I make it look like I'm vomiting?
Great, Ames.
Vomiting rainbow on him.
Oh, great.
Anyway, yeah, I think that these there is a market for these. I think the PlayStation Portal and the Nintendo Switch, frankly. Also, I think the Switch is going to win more than the Steam Deck. I think that's kind of a crazy prediction, but I think that there is a market for these, and I think the market is people who are attached to an ecosystem that care enough about that ecosystem to have like the secondary device. And I think even if these consoles sell well, maybe the usage will be kind of low. It kind of reminds me of like the Steam Link, where like everybody bought a Steam Link and then like 0 people used it because there was just like I just don't know anybody who like found a way to use it. And so I think it might be some of that. I would be willing to bet that the PlayStation Portal has a lot more buyers than it has like users. That would be my guess, because that sounds like something I would absolutely buy and then just like tuck away somewhere, which frankly, my Steam Deck often ends up in that camp. So I think the Switch proved that people care a lot more about a device being portable than I think we had previously thought. I think dedicated devices can continue to be successful. I think PlayStation has the advantage of the fact that people really care about that ecosystem. And I think the success of the Portal tells me that a dedicated handheld device would probably do well. Xbox has the advantage of Game Pass. I don't know if that's strong enough to overcome the fact that it has a respectively low player base, but the fact that you could potentially have a subscription that lets you play all these games on the fly does have some appeal. But yeah, I think it's wide open. I think Nintendo has a very clear lead position and probably will continue to for the foreseeable future. But I think it's wide open, and I think there's room for these to succeed or fail based on their merit.
No, I think the Switch 2 is obviously going to be a success, but I think as a portable, if we're talking about a little Xbox you put in your pocket or a little PlayStation 5, I think that's different than a PSP or something else that Microsoft might make. So, right, I think if it's not going to be the console itself, then they're going to have a problem, which is what the Switch is. So if it's not the console itself, I think the Steam Deck has the advantage because you can play the Sony games. You can play other things that come to Steam on that particular device. But I don't know what Microsoft is planning. Microsoft has the option of making a very streamlined kind of cloud-based portable that could play your Xbox games through that concept because they're building out their cloud infrastructure. But I don't know whether they're going to go that direction or not. I don't know if Phil knows if they're going to go that direction or not right now today.
Let me ask him.
Yeah,
he's here.
He's in the comments. But yeah, I can tell you, like I own 2 Steam Decks, and the reason I don't play that ecosystem a ton, I just basically play it when I know it's a Steam certified game that like was made for that platform in mind. Because like if I wouldn't do it for an Xbox game, because most Xbox games you can't play on the Steam Deck because a lot of them have like online components that aren't supported by it. But at least that's been my experience every time I open the dang thing. But like if there was a dedicated Xbox device that played all the Xbox games and they were all sort of like certified for that platform and worked better, I would pay for the reliability, because that's the worst part of the Steam Deck is you just open it up and you have no idea what you're going to get. Like some of the games you're hoping for will be available, and in my experience about 70% of the ones I want to play are just like, no, they're not really optimized for it, so you can't really play it.
I don't know what you're trying to play on deck, but my experience is probably, again, the opposite. Almost everything works on deck just fine.
So yeah, I guess if it is a handheld or if it's a controller supported game that has like very obvious kind of like repathing, that makes sense. The experience I have is like online games. They don't want you to play online games because of anti-cheat. Like you can't play a lot of the games with multiplayer.
Yeah, and that's a Proton thing, right? So like you could have a different device that used Windows more, and Microsoft might do that. But
yeah,
I think the actual, when we talk about being invested in something like we were just talking about with respect to Fortnite or anything else, being invested in a storefront is even more kind of controlling than that. So as long as Steam can deliver what you want, it's going to win in a portal battle against something
a storefront
out there. What is a storefront?
I said it is a storefront. Steam is also a storefront. It has the same disadvantages, I think.
Same disadvantages as what?
As any other storefront running their own like portable device. Steam is a storefront.
Well, I said it was an advantage. So what disadvantages are you thinking of?
I thought you said it was a disadvantage. I mean, how is it not the same thing though as like Xbox running a storefront platform? Because isn't that what like Xbox?
My point was that people are invested in the Steam storefront, so you have that same kind of stickiness that you would with a Fortnite and your cosmetics on that particular game. So the Steam Deck is going to have an advantage over a Microsoft product in most circumstances when Microsoft games can be made available on the Steam Deck pretty easily.
What about PlayStation?
Well, PlayStation is already selling directly into Steam, so that's even an easier win case for the Steam Deck, right?
But you don't think that the people who are invested in the PlayStation storefront might prefer to have like a walled garden
PlayStation branded, like a it's important for them to have a PlayStation logo on their little device?
I mean, if you look at the Portal, it seems to be the case.
I told you I do not understand the Portal. I have no understanding of how the Portal is selling at all.
I think there's more of that, like what Phil was alluding to, of like we lost the generation where people invested in their digital libraries. I think there's people who are like, I'm invested in the PlayStation ecosystem. Here's a PlayStation Portal device that I know was made to play those same games. I'm going to buy that. And I think that is going to go a little farther than maybe you're giving it credit. And I think PlayStation has a really big following and potential to just like pull that clout into the mobile market. I don't think they're going to be as successful as Nintendo. I think Nintendo is the clear winner here, but I would also be surprised if Steam just became like a Goliath in that space, frankly.
Well, I think that thinking is how you get the mistakes they made with the Vita and the PSP. So they might go down that road again, but if they are not replicating their console experience in a portable format, they are not going to have that success. So the Portal's advantage, it has a lot of disadvantages. The Portal's advantage is you're just playing your PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
And that mirrors a kind of Switch type of setup, but they're going to have to do that more robustly with PlayStation 5 systems, not needing that direct Wi-Fi connection, that kind of thing to succeed in that space. And if they go in a Vita direction, if they're just making mini versions of their licensed materials, I think that's a loser. That's a
yeah. I think
proposition.
you're right on that one. I don't think anybody thinks they're going to do that though. Is anybody suggesting or have?
I mean, it's all they've ever done. I mean, yes, the gaming industry has shifted with the Switch and its success, but we have no idea what Sony's planning.
Yeah, but my assumption is that they're just going to make a device that lets you play the same games, and it's kind of a lower definition, lower fidelity version of their existing ecosystem and library. That's my like complete assumption.
That's the most obvious route.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about the idea that they're going to like do a DS and have all these dedicated games that are made just for that. I would be shocked if they did that, and I think it would probably.
I think it's hard to get the level of power that is in the current console boxes in a portable format in a way that is likely to succeed. So I think you're looking at heavy battery eaters, or you're looking at a streaming solution.
Well, if all of your games also run on the PS4, it's a lot easier to make a PS4 in a portable device.
I think that's the Switch 2.
I think that's the PlayStation, whatever future Game Boy is.
It might be
PlayStation Game Boy.
Dude, that would be crazy. Imagine that level of trademark infringement.
Can it be Square again?
It'll be Game Girl. They'll just switch it up. They'll want the social clout. The internet can talk about it the whole time.
I'm sure that won't be a problem online if they called their console Game Girl. Nobody would.
Yeah, that wouldn't be picked up by any.
Nobody would have terrible takes. Yeah, about that.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone in their right mind is going to disagree that the Switch 2 is going to be the leader in the space.
No, every leak I love, all the specs I love, even the YouTubers that say this is crap, this is gonna be the worst thing ever. It's like when you actually tell me what it is, I love it. Switch 2 sounds great. Let's announce it, Nintendo. Come on, get off your butts.
Do we have to call it the Switch 2 though? Jesus.
No, it's the Super Switch. It's Super Switch.
Is that the leak?
No, that's just what we're calling it.
It's gonna be Switch 2.
It's gonna be the Switch 2.
Super Switch is a better name. So
literally, D-Brand already leaked because they're making cases for it. They already leaked it with the Switch 2 shown in the case.
They might.
And we got like chipset specs leaking. Nintendo, you can't wait until the thing is in stores. You have to manufacture this thing.
Here's something I've learned in this industry, Hoke. Never tell Nintendo what they can do. they will not listen to
you. They leaked the Joy-Cons have leaked too. It's like people actually holding.
Maybe it's a code name. Maybe they're going to surprise us with a different name. I could see Nintendo doing that.
No way in hell. Code name. No way in hell.
Dude. Do not.
Again, it is Nintendo.
Don't try to guess.
I agree.
It might be called the Wii U 2. I don't know.
It'll be the Switchy. They just had a Y.
That would be awesome.
Dude, I love that. I like that better than Switch 2.
Yeah.
What are you doing? I'm playing my Switchy. What are you up to?
OLED Switchy. Nah,
you got a Switchy? What kind of screen you got on your Switchy?
Yeah.
Tell my wife, you want to get Switchy? Come on. That's perfect. So circling back to 2024 in general, looking back at your list of games, the releases, everything we've talked about with the industry, how do you feel about it? How do you feel about the games of 2024? Did you like the year? Where do you stand on it as a gaming year?
I love this year. 2023 is probably my favorite year since 1998, but 2024 was a great year. I'm a guy that loves Japanese video games. I'm a guy that loves Japanese role-playing games. I can't think of a stronger year than this last year. There were games that I loved that I played that didn't make my top 10 because there just wasn't space for them on that list. And games that nobody mentions now, Visions of Mana, Romancing Saga 2, a lot of games that are really, really good that just didn't even make the list this particular year because it was such a strong year. So I wouldn't change anything. This was great. I might change Rebirth a little bit as I consider my statement, but it was a great year.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Travis, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to give this year 7 out of 10. I think it was a good year. Probably not great. I liked last year more, and I think I'm probably going to like 2025 more, just based on what we have on the docket there. Monster Hunter Rise, maybe GTA, ton of Western.
Monster Hunter Wild, you mean? Wild.
Yeah, Wild. Sorry, Monster Hunter Wild.
He's just going to play Rise again.
Yeah, we got Outer Worlds 2 and Vowed and a bunch of cool games.
Kingdom Come Deliverance too.
Kingdom Come Deliverance, that's going to be huge. Obviously, The Witcher 4, if our commenters are to be believed, will be coming out next year. Really excited for that.
Travis is setting up his 2025. He's going to be playing GTA 6, and he's going to follow it up with Witcher 4.
Yeah,
that'll be great.
Yeah, and then I'm going to play
and the new Halo,
Beyond Good and Evil 2. That'll be fun. Can't wait for that. Yeah, so I thought this game was good, but there wasn't like a game I was really fighting for game of the year, like with all my heart. And I think that's because a lot of them I was like, yeah, I mean, all these games are really good, but there's not one that I thought was like a masterpiece. I don't think I would have given any game this year a 10 out of 10 if I were reviewing it. And I would not say that last year I gave a 10 out of 10, and I probably would do that. Most years there's a game I would have given a masterpiece score if I was reviewing it. I just don't get to review this kind of games. But yeah.
So what? Yeah, that's funny. You said a 7. I'll say I'll give 2024 an 8. I really liked the year. I was even forgetting some releases to Hoax Point around, like, as I was going back and looking through the months, I was like, oh my God, I forgot that release this year, right? Starting with like Prince of Persia Lost Crown early in the year, fantastic Metroidvania game. And I think there's other examples of that throughout the year that are really good. I'd probably give it an 8. I think I agree with you. The only thing I would give it 10 this year, which is going to shock everyone to their core, would be Shadow of the Erdtree. But again, that's not a game. So I don't think there's any full release that I gave. I would give a 10 to. Indie was my favorite game of the year.
Is that unusual? Are there games
that you 10.
Would give? Yeah, are there games you would give a 10 from last year?
2023, I think, was my favorite year in gaming since 2007.
So there's got to be some 10s in there.
There has to be something, and I'm blanking entirely on what they were. Obviously, 2022 was.
I can't remember last year either. So
yeah, Elden Ring was 2022.
Did you give Elden Ring a perfect score?
Yeah. Nice. Yes, it's not perfect. Doesn't mean.
But it got a perfect score. There is such a thing as a perfect score.
For the record, last year I'd give Alan Wake 2 a 10.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, I would give.
Alex reviewed that for us and gave it a 10. True.
Yeah, and then I
would you give 10s this year? Your top game? So you would say the Star Wars game is a
Star Wars Outlaws is not a 10, Hogue.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
I wouldn't give it a 10, but I would say that in my head I give a 10 like once every 5 years, maybe. Like the top of the list is usually a 9, and I would say 2024 to me is a 9 of a year. It's not a 7 or an 8. I loved a lot of these games. 2024 gave us Balatro. 2024 gave us Skull and Bones. 2024 gave us the strongest Lucasfilm games like in history.
Jedi Survivor.
No, not Jedi Survivor. Yeah, Outlaws is much better than Jedi Survivor. I will stand on that hill.
I will
shoot people that try to climb that hill. Star Wars Outlaws is much better than Jedi Survivor.
Unfortunately, you shoot like a stormtrooper.
That escalated quickly.
We're all making it to the top of the hill thanks to your stormtrooper aim. Sorry.
I will stand up for Outlaws. I have not clicked with Jedi Survivor any of the 25 times I've tried to play it. And Outlaws was fantastic. Infinite Wealth was great. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle was a surprise out of nowhere that I loved. Metaphor is maybe the best new JRPG franchise in decades.
Is it?
And that's going to be fantastic. Kunitsugami, the unknown soldier, who nobody likes as much as me, has some of the best artistry in video games that I have ever seen. 2024, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, going back to puzzle roots. I love that game. Fantastic. Continue killing it, Simigo.
He doesn't lack passion.
I love 2024. It was a great year of video games.
So I went back and looked at I thought it was a great year. I went back to look at 2023. 2033 was goated. I don't think we're topping that anytime soon. I agree with you, Travis. For me, because of the Western influence we're seeing already in 2025, I think I'm going to love 2025 more than 2024. But 2023, so just real quick to remind memories here. Baldur's Gate 3, which was like one of the highest rated games of all time. Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
Diablo 4, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, Street Fighter 6, Alan Wake 2, Starfield, Jedi Survivor, Sea of Stars, Hogwarts Legacy, Resident Evil 4 Remake, Lies of P, Hi-Fi Rush, Armored Core, Final Fantasy 16, Dead Space Remake, Spider-Man 2. The list just goes on and on and
Dave
on.
the
It is
Diver.
insane.
Yeah.
Dave the Diver, Mortal Kombat 1,
Asgard's
Talos
Wrath
Principle
2.
2, Asgard's Wrath 2, Remnant 2, Octopath Traveler 2, Phantom Liberty, Cyberpunk. Like, it's ridiculous.
Hogwarts
It's ridiculous.
Legacy.
Yeah, there were
Hogwarts,
a lot of good damn games last year.
2023 was just stupid.
Yeah, unbelievable.
But still a good year. Still a good year for 2024.
Yeah, I would say a good year, but I don't know. For me, there's nothing that I think that I got to the pinnacle, and there's definitely not multiple things that got to the pinnacle for me. And so I'm gonna temper a little bit and say 7, but I can see an 8, a 9.
I'll give an 8.
Pretty wild, but yeah,
7, 8, 9. There, we fill it out.
No, that's a 9 for me. Like I said, I love JRPGs. There was a JRPG seemingly every 2 weeks. That
big
I got
year for JRPGs
all year,
including the best one, Rebirth.
Rebirth was not the best one, but I appreciate your attempt, Ains. But no, Infinite Wealth starts the year. You've got Rebirth in March, but you've got the other games I mentioned, Visions of Mana, Romancing Saga. You've got the stuff Nintendo was releasing. You got the Paper Mario remake. You've got Mario and Luigi gets a new entry. You got games all over the calendar. If you like RPGs, 2024 was a super strong year. Easy 9 out of 10.
Fair. By the way, Eric has been promoting like crazy in the SG chat another Crab's Treasure. He really loved that game.
Great game. I think that was on my list of my favorite like surprise game or something like that. Like I think I included it in your SG honors list. Great.
It was somewhere there. He had it. He had it on there as well for sure. So
hell yeah, another Crab's Treasure. Game rules.
I never got by that night, Travis.
Really?
It's
too bad.
I know.
You never got to fight the samurai warrior who uses discarded chopsticks as weapon.
I know I'm a failure to you, Travis. I understand.
Yeah, no, this is.
I didn't get very far in it either, but that was just time.
Yeah, I know there's no time.
Yeah.
This is the joy of reviewing a game, is knowing that you have to finish a game.
That's 100% true.
Especially if it's one you wouldn't have normally, because you don't get that, Ains, because you choose the games you review. If you are told the games you have to review, it means you have to play certain games you would have normally missed. I would have never played another Crab's Treasure, and I got to play it, and that's why I love reviewing games.
So let's talk briefly. We're not going to go through the whole list, but we did the SG honors. You guys joined us again, which was a lot of fun. There are a couple ones I wanted to just call out here. So one of the ones I like we do is the favorite new character. And the reason I call this one out is because we have, with you two included now, we have 15 people. So 13 people of Season Gaming, the two of you joining us. There was not one repeat. We picked 15 different characters, which is that's pretty incredible, honestly.
I think Hogan and I chose the same game, though.
Star Wars Outlaws, yes.
You go through my tab.
Hogan chose K, and you chose ND5.
ND5, yeah.
Yep. And I chose Gina from Indiana Jones.
Oh, she's great. Yeah, she's really cool.
A couple of people had characters from Metaphor. The interesting thing, we had 3 Metaphors. Alex chose Heismay, Elliot chose Lewis, and Elu chose Stroll.
I think you meant Luis. But
Luis.
Yes.
Sorry.
You got to get that weird pronunciation from Metaphor.
Sorry.
ND5 is the right answer, by the way. ND5 is so cool.
I have no doubt that you have selected the robotic character without emotion.
Hey, he has emotion. Replay that game. Also, he's kind of, I don't know, there's a little sexual tension between him and Kay, I gotta say. You picked up on that, right?
I did not pick up on any sexual tension between the lead and the robot. They kind of play into
it a little bit, huh? You need to get in touch with your.
I guess I got another run through of Star Wars Outlaws. I've already done it 4 times.
Do it again. You'll see a little sexual tension if you're looking for it.
I'm waiting to catch the physical copy.
By the way, anytime ND5 spoke, my wife was like, did a little gasp and like clutch. I was like, "Are you attracted to this robot?" And she was like, "I married one." Okay, I see where you're going with it. Yeah. Okay.
By the way, I've heard I'm going to be buying Outlaws on PS5. I've heard the Pro version is quite the upgrade for it is quite good. That's what Steve was telling me this week, so that's good.
Very cool.
One of my favorite categories is the Rodriguez. Shout out to Dan. We call it the Rodriguez because this is our favorite 7. So the game that's obviously not going to win any awards, not the highest rated game of the year, but a game you love nevertheless. Travis, you went with Earth Defense Force 6, which you have talked about a lot on this show.
That's a good 7.
Seven's a pretty generous number for that. Yeah.
No, I think 7's spot on. It's a good game. You wouldn't say it's like great, but yeah, it's a good game.
That is the money I wasted the most obviously trying to follow Travis's lead.
Yeah. I look, if you would have asked me, should I buy that one? I would have been like, no.
You've always been very honest with me when I ask. I understand. I did this on my own, but it was definitely a waste of money.
Games. I have a pretty good batting average for games. I'm like, this is one you should play. And that one I was like, don't do it. And you still did it. So that's on you, buddy.
It is.
Hogue, you chose Unicorn Overlord, another game that came out this year that I've seen people kind of talk about this one as a sleeper hit, if you will, a game people should play.
Yeah, then, I think Unicorn Overlord is a game everybody should play. It's a strategy tactics auto battler thing with Vanillaware art. Everybody will be improved in their livelihood, in their love life, in their family life, just from knowing this game.
Interesting.
All right.
Well, he said in real love life, so we got to play it. By the way, Captain Logan is questioning my choice of Earth Defense Force 6 over Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden, and I legit do not have a good comeback for that. Well played. That actually might be. Maybe I should have chosen that. That's a
Banishers is a solid 7.
That's a very good 7. Yeah, it's a good.
Banishers did show up in our best story slide for a few people voted for that. By the way,
I don't think I would have given it that, but yeah, very cool.
As for my favorite Rodriguez, I chose Anatria, the last song, which I talked a little bit about here, which is a Souls-like, but with a unique take in various ways. I think it is an excellent use case or example of a 7.
That's people in masks hunting you across the Italian countryside, yes?
Yes, that one, yes. And the mask, what makes it interesting is the mask kind of like you change your entire character. You can put on different masks. They give you different abilities, weaponry.
I do that in real life too, yeah.
That's what your ties do.
Yeah.
What else was I going to call out here? Art selection was a win for Metaphor. I will call out that the favorite, the winner, or I should say the majority selection of the game we wish more people played was Concord, which was kind of funny. So me, Hogue,
a lot of people said that.
3 of us, I think, did.
Wow,
me, Hogue, and someone else. And then
what was mine?
A lot of different.
It's also a little selfish to say Concord. It's like, well, the game died without you, so thanks.
Yeah, exactly. Miles Edgeworth, Investigations, you put for that one.
Oh yeah, and more people should play that game.
And this won't really shock anyone, but the favorite game you didn't finish, meaning you started, you want to play it more, was a tie between Metaphor and Rebirth. 2 very long JRPGs, so that shouldn't really shock anyone.
I finished it. Woohoo!
I put Infinite Wealth. That's the one I want to go back to.
Oh, what a good game.
But yeah. And most anticipated. So we'll end on that one. Most anticipated game of 2025. So I have Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Hogue, the Suikoden remasters, which we've talked about, and for Travis, you have GTA 6. The only reason I didn't put GTA 6 is because I don't genuinely believe it's releasing.
I almost didn't for that exact same reason, but I was like, I mean, it currently, I'm just gonna,
they say it's coming.
They say it's coming. Yeah. So if that came out next year, that would be the thing I'm most excited for.
Me too. But what won by a mile, much to my dismay, and everyone at SG knows this, and we laugh about it quite frequently, is Monster Hunter Wilds. Almost everyone at SG is incredibly hyped for that game.
If GTA was disqualified because it's not coming out next year, Monster Hunter Wilds would be my choice. So I'm with you.
I'm glad you have GTA then, because the right half of that slide nearly is entirely Monster Hunter Wilds. So you would have added another one to that.
How many other Suikoden remasters are there, Ains?
I'm checking. Let me look over this very closely. Yes, it's 0. It's 0.
It's just you.
All right.
But no, I mean
fiction.
Although, to be fair, Lewis has Wanderstop, which is a unique pick. Elliot has Avowed. Eric put Doom, The Dark Ages, which is very high up for me as well. Ghost of Yotei as well, coming next year. So there's some really great picks there. But it was anyone listening, anyone checking this out, please go check that out. We had a lot of fun with it. It takes a lot of coordination to get 15 people going through all these categories, but it's just some fun we have. Like we said, we don't do awards because what we found is with 10 plus people working, everyone playing their own interests and reviewing their own games, critically, it's impossible to say this is the best game of the year when maybe only 2 of the 13 people have played it. Do you know what I mean? And so we have a lot more fun just kind of picking our own things and, saying what we like. So it was a good time. That's on the site. You can check that out. All right, boys. The only other very small news tidbit I wanted to mention is that Tango Gameworks, which was, as we know, shut down by Xbox early last year, was picked up by Krafton, the publishing company that owns PUBG of all things, and some other IPs. So they just did a quick little blurb saying, "Hey, we are now Tango Gameworks Incorporated, and they're gonna continue on," which was good news to see for that studio.
Noise.
Yeah, and I think what we knew was that Krafton had bought those assets, but the announcement this last couple weeks was that the new entity had been formed.
Correct.
And now
that's correct.
Now we get to watch Microsoft complain about how they're not competing in the Japanese market after they let go of one of the only Japanese studios that would have them. Very cool. I'm sure it won't backfire at all. I'm sure they won't be.
That had a fantastic new Japanese themed IP, fantastic Japanese horror IP.
Yep.
Somehow I think Microsoft is going to soldier on.
Yeah, I think they're going to soldier on, and we're never going to have to hear about them talk about why question why they don't do well in Japan again. I'm sure that'll happen as well.
But anyway, guys, anything else you want to touch on before we start to wrap up for the week?
Hogue, how are your new headphones?
My new headphones are great. They work better than my old headphones. I'm very enthused about
them. Interesting. More at 11.
Didn't have to fix his ear.
Not once.
Good.
Not once. Very cool.
This is going to be the most random comment ever, but one thing that jumped out to me that may refresh your memory, Travis, which I forgot until I was going through 2024 games, is that No Rest for the Wicked was one of our most hyped games for 2024. It came out. We loved it. What the hell is Moon Studios doing?
I mean, they are updating the game.
They had one major update.
Yeah.
Their other big one is coming. But they've had one, and I think they released that game too early.
I think they're a small studio. Well, the game do you count it as being released if it's?
Well, I think they went into early access too early because it was an amazing concept. Like, I love what's there. There's just not enough there.
I think people will forget about it, and then when it gets its 1.0, it'll basically have a second launch. That kind of happened with Baldur's Gate 3. I feel, we'll see if. We'll see if it follows a similar pattern. But yeah, I really liked that game. So cool. Yeah. Keep it coming. Yeah. There's 2 types of early access, right? There's like Path of Exile 2, which seems like its launch is almost imminent. And then there's this game, which, it's probably going to be in early access for a long time.
Yes, definitely. Let's get to these,
team, by the way, worth mentioning.
Smaller team that is 100% remote by design. Yeah. So yes,
probably takes a lot longer to make games that way. I don't know. Rob Frawley II has been a member for 24 months. Shout out to Rob. He helped me with my most recent review. He's my real life friend because of Satisfactory. He writes, cozy train delivery game, Train Valley 2 and Worlds.
God, I love trains. I'll play some train games.
Training Day.
There was just a new Railroad Empire, I think. I was going to get that. Good reminder, Rob. Thank you.
There you go. Rob, thank you as always for the support. Rob's always hanging out in Discord and hanging on the channel, so appreciate it, brother. All right, Fat Boy Horror.
Fat Boy Horror offers £2 and writes 2.5 for 2024 based on Skull and Bones alone. And I reviewed that game and gave it a 7, and I say to you, that's fair.
I would let you know, Hogue. Alex gave Skull and Bones a 6, as I think you may recall. He was ranting in our Discord the other day about that score being way too high, and he wishes he would have gave it a 4.
What? No, that's crazy, Alex. The game first of all, Alex's 6 has already called the question because he played that game wrong. He played it alone, which is weird. That's weird. It's a weird way to play that game. So, yeah, I don't know, man.
So I just want to put out there. So first show of 2025. We're still talking about Skull and Bones. That was expected today because Hoag had Skull and Bones on a few of the slides from 2024. There's going to have to be we're going to have to cut this off at some point. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's my question. Can we take a bet on how many episodes throughout the year Skull and Bones will appear in 2025? Obviously, this is the middle square of the bingo card. Well, because you could cheat and like make it, but we could just guess and then forget about this and then go back. Somebody could tell us in the comments how close we got.
Can we have an agreement to make it 0?
I prefer. Haynes, I have not brought it up, but there's a very real chance there will be an update for Skull and Bones, and then it'll be back on the menu, boys.
I will say that they are out. They're out of their seasons now, so they're going to have an announcement, or they're not,
or they're just going to die quietly, which I think is probably what's going to happen based on the player count.
Okay.
No,
the player count.
Ubisoft is going to be saved. Ubisoft is going to continue forever.
Didn't they?
One thing that's going to save them is that they're going to put all of their resources into Skull and Bones up there. You heard it here first.
It's not Assassin's Creed. It's like that picture of Jeb Bush with the red map. He's like, oh, it's like Skull and Bones. Like, oh, it's a sweep. All 50 states.
Jeb Bush. Speaking of, it's Ubisoft saying, please clap.
Yeah, please,
Ubisoft's announcement is going to be Assassin's Creed Shadows didn't do what we thought, so we're putting all of the company on Skull and Bones.
That's right. Bet it all on Skull and Bones if you want to be owned by Tencent next month. That's what I say, sir. Do it.
Rick Davis says, if Skull and Bones is banned, I'm pulling my SG support. Oh, no.
All right, well, there you go.
Oh, no.
There you go. Financial reason to keep Skull and Bones in the show.
Man. We're making more on Skull and Bones than Ubisoft is.
Oh, no.
Destroyed.
Oh, man. No. All jokes aside.
It's great.
I still haven't played it. I bought it, 4 months ago? I still haven't played it.
Put it in.
Yeah, I will.
I don't like the way you said that.
I know. Whoa. Aggressive.
Put it in. All excited. Like, whoa, let's calm down.
Bad Boy R, thank you as always, my friend. Another big supporter of SG. And Don coming back again.
Don Lionheart gives me another $2 to write. Let's do all the slides and choices like last year. That took a lot of time. Let's not do that.
I think we're past that point, Don. That's why I wanted to at least highlight some of them. But like I said, check it out on the site. It's fun just to look through. And you can see if anything jumps out to you, leave us a comment. We'll talk about it. But Don, thank you. It's great to have Don as part of it this year, by the way, too. His first year as part of SG and as part of the thing. So good stuff. All right. I think that's going to wrap us up for the week. Our first show of 2025. Reminder, Travis, as he said, is going on the nerdiest retreat of all time next week. He will not be here. So I will probably bring a guest on with us, Hoag. I'm not sure who that is just yet, but we'll figure that out. And we'll be back to our regular cadence of shows. And of course, Travis is going to be leaving us for multiple weeks in February because he's going to Tokyo to fish for his own food, apparently.
Yeah.
Something about recreational activities. I don't know.
Something.
Can you even see me doing a recreational activity? Because I can't.
I mean, I don't want to tell you how to run your honeymoon, man, but I can. Yeah,
I would say enjoy yourself.
I'm going to be gone the 22nd or 23rd or something like that. And then I think March 1st, your guys' 2 shows in a row. Just because I'm going to be in Tokyo for 10 days, and it's smart to do 2 weekends if you're going to do.
Hell, that's going to be right after all those gigantic releases, including Wilds, right when Wilds releases. Yeah, so we'll get some. I'll get a guest on here that can talk about Wilds, much to my chagrin.
You're going to Tokyo in the heart of the big releases in February.
That's right. Wow. But I'll be done with the reviews of the games that come out of that period because those.
But we don't all get early review copies of these games, Travis. I don't know what to tell you.
No, I'm just saying I'll have played the ones that I had to play before I leave, and then I'll have like a little break.
By the way, on that note, and I can say this because the community manager and one of the developers talked about it, that they are sending out Kingdom Come 2 Deliverance review codes this week, which
I saw the tweet
very well for the confidence in that game. 4
By the
weeks
way,
in advance.
2025 is already a great year for review copies coming in super early. So
love it.
Talked about that. What I've gotten, we've gotten multiple like that are huge.
I don't want to carry on or circle back, but I think, honestly, I think that ties a little bit back to what Hoag was saying when we were talking about the trends in 2024 and kind of awareness of games, right? Those late review codes and not getting proper reviews or proper coverage of your game when it launches can hurt you pretty badly. And I think that publishers need to be conscious, or maybe becoming more conscious of the fact they got to get those codes in early so people can make some really kind of stronger content for those games to promote it at launch. Because trying to rush to do those, more better than anyone, Travis, doing those 60-hour games of 4 days is just it'll break you.
Although it does give me some nice exclusives since I'm the only one willing to do it. But yeah, I don't enjoy it. I would like more lead time, please.
Yeah. But anyway, the only thing for us to shout out a couple things. So yes, Travis and I did rekindle our cooking cook-off this year. We celebrated the announcement of Witcher 4 with a Witcher cook-off. I think the video came out really well. I think this is our best year. Video came out well. The food came out well. It was a fun one to do for sure. Check that out. That's up on the channel, and give us feedback on that one. And like I said, check out the SG Honors 2024 on the site as well. So Hoag, I will pass it to you, my friend.
Sure. Well, for those that didn't follow on my channel, I did a 2nd anniversary message video of the stroke on December 30th, marking 2 years stroke free. So you can check that out on the channel right now. There is also a Last Stand Media appearance that I am in that I know is taped and in the can that hasn't been released on their channel yet, that should pop up sooner or later. So you can get excited about that. I don't know when they're going to put that up. Otherwise, I think that's it for right now. I may dive back into the world of celebrity defamation proceedings in the next week, but I don't want to promise that because I am not sure what I'm going to be up for in terms of video creation. So
at first I thought you said celebrity defecation, and then I realized that actually applies to the first one.
It does apply to the first one. Yeah. I don't believe it applies to the second one.
I missed something because I don't know what you're talking about.
All right. So I covered Depp v. Heard.
No, I know that, but I don't know what you're talking about current.
It is possible that I might go into the Lively Baldani fight and the New York Times defamation lawsuit in the next week. I haven't decided yet.
Oh, okay.
But if you're interested, let me know in my comments or otherwise, because I'm not sure.
Also, the reason I started to giggle when you first started talking, Hoag, is because you said stroke free, as if it like lived in you. You know what I mean? Like you've gotten it out. It just sounded quite funny.
Stroke free for 2 years. Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the things that you get told by all the doctors and the therapists and everyone else is that you're at a much higher risk of a repeat if you don't take care of yourself. So it's something to celebrate.
Absolutely is. No, I saw you put that out over the holidays. It's good stuff. Travis, what you got?
Review coming out, I think, second week of January. Until then, I'm in stealth mode, doing reviews, previews, and other stuff I can't talk about. But please check out my review of, what was the last game I reviewed? Alien, maybe? I think.
Yes,
was the last
VR.
One.
Yes.
The last we heard.
Yeah, I think so. And that feels so long ago. And I'll be hanging out here, and I'll be gone next week. So have fun without me. Please talk a lot of smack.
That's how I live my life, Travis. Having fun without you.
We absolutely will. Yeah. By the way, Gentle Stone says that we all expect a gaming in Japan segment when you return.
I'm down with that, actually. We will definitely be going to arcades. My wife is a gamer through and through, so we're
obviously you'll take a bunch of good pictures, but let's share them. We'll share some during the live show.
That sounds great. I'm gonna have to start working out because all my pictures are gonna be shirtless.
No, we're not sharing.
My birthday suit. It's a 3-piece.
On that note, the perfect note to close. Chat, you've been awesome today, as always. Thank you to everyone who's hanging out with us and back in 2025. It's going to be a fun year, going to be a fantastic year for games, and can't wait to continue chatting with these two characters you see in front of you about it. So we'll be back next week. Hoag and I will be here with a guest, and hope you have a great week in gaming. Until next time, peace.
Go Lions.